This is Racing Unleashed Beyond the Pinnacle.
Hold on to your hats. We are on the grid. Who is going to be king of the late breakers? Excellent onboard shot. Michael Spiedel is throwing absolutely everything at this, including the kitchen sink.
And he is a fighter, a warrior. And look at this! Look at this!
Unglaublich!
Wow, qué pelea!
I'm loving this.
Take your hat off and give him a bow. He's already in the lead and now he can sail off into the sunset.
This is Racing Unleashed.
Hello everyone, a very good morning to you and welcome to Racing Unleashed as we go beyond the Pinnacle. And here we are in Kemptal then as we bring all our lounges together for our fantastic experience of Racing Unleashed, the Racer League, and it is our final showdown today. Absolutely, the challenge is all completed because we go to our final event of what has been a marvellous season. And of course today we'll be racing in Imola, which is a hugely technical circuit and very difficult for our drivers to get the best out of. Of course they have the gear up session to come, which is effectively their free practice session. Then it is into the knockout qualifying. The grid is going to be oh so important today. And then we go to the race a little bit later on as well. So lots to look forward to in our program today, of course, as always. And whilst our Racer League champion has been crowned, he's effectively won the championship, Michael Spiedel. He will be racing for a P1 today. Be under no illusion whatsoever. He's a racing driver and he wants to be right at the very, very top of his game when it comes to the final event today. As I mentioned, we're racing in Imola, then the 4.9 kilometre circuit, 21 turns, 12 left, 9 to the right, and one of the few circuits where you drive in an anti-clockwise direction. And it is a really tricky circuit to get the best out of. The first sector is very flat, but the second and third sectors become very, very undulating. And talking of undulating, there's nothing undulating about Fabian Vettel, who joins us. Hello, Fabian, how are you?
Hi, Dave. I'm fine. I hope you are also. But for me, perfect Sunday when I'm hearing your voice.
Oh, that's really kind of you. So it has been a manic season, hasn't it? It's been really, really exciting for us to be able to bring the action to all our viewers as well. But of course for the drivers. And it comes down to this, the final showdown on a iconic circuit, Fabian, the Imola circuit, which is in these simulators really difficult to get the best out of this track.
Yeah, it really is. For me, it's always a special day when I'm a part of the racing lounges and be like on the side of all those drivers, because they are like really on the edge driving in those simulators. And of course, Imola really technical and difficult track, but I would say all those guys are ready for it.
Now, you and I have spoken a lot during the course of this year, and you've been very, very generous with your praise for our drivers, whether in the Challenger League or the Racer League, because these guys and girls are absolute stars who are becoming real motor racing heroes, aren't they? And what I want to ask you about is the fact that when they get out of the simulator, and you and I experience this being in the lounges, you're in a different lounge to me today, the camaraderie and the friendship, actually, once they get out of the simulators, is awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. You know, I know how it is to sit in one of those simulators or in a real race car. Of course, on track, they are fighting for themselves and against each other. But if they're jumping out of it, they are all, let's say, good friends. They are trained together all the weeks before racing weekend. And yeah, it's like a big family.
Fabian, we're going to be checking in during the course of our program with you. Thank you so much for being there. And talking of action, of which there will be plenty coming today, let's take a look at what happened yesterday. Hold on to everything that's loose fitting. Let's go racing. Lights out, and away we go. an awful lot of opportunity, as you can see, for drivers to run wide, and we're on board with David Seed, who does take avoiding action initially and then gets tagged by a car from behind. If everything finished the way it is now, surely Ciro Zambra would be champion. David Seed then, with lots of overtaking to do, finds himself down there in P16, and he gets a tag and is turned around. So it's going from bad to worse for David Seed. This really is not his day here in Imola. So as the cars all head along the start-finish straight, which isn't straight, Ciro Zambra on the outside of Nico Farland. But Nico will have the inside going into the chicane, but Ciro Zambra has got it done. A well-executed move up to P2 for Ciro Zambra. Here is Marcus Valverde. As Ciro Zambra goes for another move now, he should have the inside line going into the first sequence of chicanes, which is the Tamburello, and Ciro Zambra takes the lead of the race. Ciro Zambra, incidentally, has picked up a 1.7 second margin, as here comes Marcus Valverde now on Joshua Hader, and surely this is done, and Marcus Valverde all of a sudden becomes P2. So Yannick Pletcher now to the inside. And, oh no, that means disaster for both Tiziano Caponio and Yannick Pletcher as they both go around. And here is Mohamed Ramsey then with Tyler Klausch through the Tamburello. Tyler Klausch there, brilliant move, and he's made that work. He's got 2 more turns to do. He's through the first one of those, which is Ravazza 1. That is Ravazza 2. He heads now towards the checkered flag. Surely Ciro Zambra has done enough to become champion as he takes the race win. Ciro Zambra crosses the line, P1. The applause erupts around him in the lounge in Zurich. Big round of applause for Josh Hader then for taking P3, and here comes his medal to be presented right now. Many congratulations to Marcus Valverde. Well done indeed, P2. Ciro Zambra gets his medal. Ralph Muller will be doing cartwheels at the success of one of his students in Fit and Fast, and being presented with his award by Sebastian Hirsch. Sinan Demurbas, P3 in the Challenger League Championship. David Seed has been a star all season long. He takes P2 in the championship, and then here is the champion on the top step, and he is presented with his award. Ciro Zambra, who banks just under $5,000 in Swiss francs, he's congratulated there as well. Ciro Zambra is the 2022 Challenger League champion. Well done, Ciro. And here then, confirmation of the results. Ciro Zambra, Marcus Valverde and Joshua Hader taking the top 3 places. Borja Zazo picking up a penalty in P6 and Tiziano Caponio completing the top 10. Other drivers picking up penalties included Yannick Schmidt and Guzman Migueles, as well as Julian Machas de la Rosa. So the final championship points then. 153 points is enough for Ciro Zambra then to take the championship ahead of David Seed P2 and Sinan Demurbas P3. Marcus Valverde P4, Nico Farland P5, and then the rest of the order in terms of the points accrued by all the drivers who have taken part in the Challenger League during the course of the year. A fantastic show from all of our drivers and the points on the board that they've won. It really was awesome yesterday in the Challenger League, and Fabian, of course, it was introduced this year, a fun league as well, so there's a real stepping stone in terms of this wonderful program with Racing Unleashed that you can grow with it, and as your skill set becomes even greater, you can go and compete across the leagues and find yourself in the Racer League, which is where we are today. I just want to talk, if I may, Fabian, about Michael Schmiedl, who of course has won the Racer League Championship already. The domination that he has shown this year and his racecraft in comparison to last year, he's come on so well, hasn't he?
Yeah, it was really impressive and crazy to watch him during the whole season because, yeah, like you said, he was just driving on another level, not only lap time-wise or just of his speed, but also of his, cleverness during a race to not mess up, don't touch any other cars, and he was really, I would say, on the top level.
195 points. I mean, it's an extraordinary achievement. And I think what it does for an old hand like me, Fabian, 100 years old, who's been in motorsport all his life, I was always very curious about where sim racing was going to fit in the global landscape of motor racing. My eyes have been completely opened by Racing Unleashed because it is such a fantastic opportunity for so many talented people to get their first taste in motorsport.
Yeah, of course. It's nowadays it's not just sim racing and real racing. I think it's sim racing is a really important part of real racing, of course, because if you're a real racing driver, you are prepare yourself, of course, in simulators for next races or for upcoming tracks that you have never been to. So it's for me and of course for anybody else a really important point and chapter for real racing.
Well, Fabian, of course, not only races simulators, races in real racing cars as well. Fabian, nice to talk to you as always. And I know we have graphics now which indicate, in terms of the Challenger League, the championship has ended yesterday, and it was really, really exciting because in the Challenger League, of course, P1 went to Ciro Zambra. David Seed had an exemplary season, and going into the final race yesterday in the Challenger League, there was 1 point between Ciro Zambra and David Seed, and Sinan de Murbas also still had a mathematical chance of being able to take the championship as well, but in the end it went the way of Ciro Zambra taking P1, David Seed P2 and Sinan de Murbas P3, and that's the way it ended up. And for a championship to be so tight, Fabian, going into the final race as we did yesterday with the Challenger League with just 1 point in it between P1 and P2, it proves how good that the Racing Unleashed program is.
Yeah, of course. Also, big congrats from myself to Zero. I've met him lots of times in the racing lounge in Zurich. So he's a young but really, really focused guy. He's not that much talking with other drivers, but he's really, really focused about his driving. And in the end, he was fast enough to win the championship. So congrats to him. But yeah, I would say you can see in the back the racers are already on track warming up. So I'm looking forward to really nice race action.
What was really nice yesterday with Ciro was the fact that, as you say, he's quite quiet and focused. But yesterday, as he crossed the finish line, Fabian, the raw emotions exploded like a volcano erupting from him.
Yeah, of course. If you are like in that intense moment, like you just said, they are going into the last race, 1 point between each other. So it's really, really tough situation, of course, for all those drivers, but especially for Zero, and to end up P1 and win the championship is perfect. And then all the pressure just releases when you are crossing start-finish line.
Fabian, as always, great to talk to you. Let's get into gear up now, because the drivers, as you quite rightly said, are in the simulators, and they are in what is effectively their free practice session, gear up. Thanks, Fabian. We'll check in back with you in due course. And here the drivers are then. And Michael Schmiedl then, who, of course, has won the championship already. Now, when it comes to this gear up session, this free practice session, it's almost academic, because what you're using this session for is to get your eye in and to get everything set up on this really, really challenging Imola circuit. And for Michael Schmiedl, nothing to prove. In fact, for any of the drivers, nothing to prove, apart from perhaps if you do finish the gear up session in P1, as far as you are concerned, it proves how quick you are. But it all gets very, very serious, of course, when it comes to the knockout qualifying. Here is Alejandro Sanchez then, of course, last year's champion. He's on an outlap now, and this 10-minute gear-up session goes very, very quickly. And Alejandro Sanchez then, who has been chasing throughout the season, but the sheer dominance that we talked about from Michael Schmiedl has been too difficult to overcome. He's very nearly 100 points behind Michael Schmiedl going into this race in Imola. But, of course, he would still like to take P2. He is being chased by Angelo Michel, who is P3 in the points, but Michael Schmiedl then going into this race on 195 points, hugely determined. And there you can see Mohammed behind him, who was racing in the Challenger League yesterday and took pole position. And this just reinforces what I was saying about the camaraderie and friendship between all the drivers outside the simulators. Michael Schmiedl looking absolutely determined. He's currently 5th fastest out of the 23 cars. He will be hoping to improve upon that through the Piratella Acqua Minerale, now heading up towards the Variante Alta, which is where we are on this Imola circuit. Through this Variante Alta, then you really have to try and take the curbs, as you could see Mikhail was doing there, and then it's this downhill section where you run into the two Ravazza turns. There's a couple of kinks to come before then, and this is Enrique Maranon, whose season sees him currently P6 in the Drivers' Championship for the Racer League drivers. Enrique Maranon, another supremely talented young driver. He's doing a good job here because he is currently P1 with a time of 1:23.31. Mikhail Smedel has moved up to P2. No surprise there, perhaps. Here is Enrique Maranon then, this wonderful split shot that we were able to bring you. And you can see all his inputs inside the simulator and how they translate to how the car behaves out there on track as well. All the graphics as well, which explains to you what gear is in, how much force is being used on each of the pedals as well. Absolutely love the setup here, where we can give you as much information as that. Christoph Holstein, he's out, and he's on his way as well. Christoph Holstein, who's currently P5 in the Drivers' Championship, the bespectacled driver who we can see here racing in our Zurich lounge. And now climbing uphill out the Tosa turn, and Florian Hasse, another great driver, who is yet to put a meaningful time on the board in this gear-up session. Here is Florian then. He's racing in our lounge in Munich in Germany. So Florian Hasse then currently P5. And we have just under 4 minutes of this session remaining for our free practice gear-up with Loris Mistretta, who we can look at now. And Loris Mistretta then, again, the split shot, so into Ravazza now. You can see the force that is put through the braking pedal through Ravazza 1, then Ravazza 2. Javier Loro, as we can see the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen explaining who is where, and it's a welcome return to Roger Marte then, who is running P7 at the moment. So the order is Angelo Michel from Enrique Maranon and Mikhail Smedel. Then it's Alejandro Sanchez, Javier Loro, Dominic Dedic, P6, Jan Teufen is P7, and Roger Marte is P8. And the times then are 1:20.089 from Angelo Michel. Are we going to get a sub-120 time before this gear-up session is over? We wait to see. Javier Loro is certainly going quicker than anyone at the moment. He's currently P5. This is Angelo Michel then, who is currently top of the charts when it comes to our gear-up session. It's Michel from Maranon, and Smedel then is P3. When it comes to our knockout qualifying, of course, the whole term knockout actually describes perfectly on the tin exactly what it is, because the cars come out in championship order. And therefore, the drivers that are quickest and highest up ranked in the championship start at the very back of the pack. We have some guarded laps, and then when the guarded laps are over, two drivers get eliminated from the knockout qualifying on every lap. That's to come after this gear-up session. Enrique Maranon now with a 1:20.014. We are just a 100th or 100th and a half away from getting a sub-120 time. Be very interesting to see if someone is able to pull that out of the bag in this gear-up session. Dominic Dedic then, who drives in our Zurich lounge. Another very, very tidy racer, that's for sure. You can see through the speed trap, very nearly 300 kilometers per hour. Jan Teufen climbing up the hill now before riding the crest and beginning to go downhill once again. Here's Jan Teufen then. And as you can see, approaching the right-hander now, it's kind of a double right-hander through the Acqua Minerale, turns 11 and 12. And Roger Marte then, who, as I said, a warm welcome back to Roger Marte. I was speaking to him. He's driving a simulator here in our lounge in Chemtal, which is where our broadcast center is situated. And this is Roger Marte then through the chicane. He's feeling very confident today, and said to me just a few moments ago, we're targeting a podium, Dave. Mark Gasner. Now, Wojciech Polesny is the driver that has given us a sub-120 time. I thought we would see that, and it's Wojciech Polesny that has done it. This is Mark Gasner in Munich then, running along the start-finish straight, which really isn't straight here at Imola. Two kinks in there, and you really hug the wall that delineates the track from the pit lane. And Yannick Vonenberg clock running on Yannick at the moment. So the order is Polesny from Marinon, from Schmiedel, from Mikel, from Alejandro Sanchez. Here is Yannick Vonenberg. Also driving in our Munich lounge. We bring all the lounges together, of course. Kemptal and Zurich and Madrid and Munich and Calm also. And this is Devin Iskro, another driver that I spoke to just before this gear-up session got underway, of which there was only 20 seconds left. And Devin Iskro running out wide through the Ravazza turns, and interestingly, Roger Marte was sprinting up and down the stairs in preparation, and I said to Devin Iskro, do you not do the same? He says, no, don't, Dave. That was the end of that conversation. Here's Javier Loro then in Madrid. And Javier Loro, of course, who comes into this race, P4 in the Drivers' Championship, but merely 4 points behind Angelo Mikel, who's running in P3 in the Drivers' Championship, so he'll be hoping for good things today. This is Kevin Abey. Wojciech Polesny then at the top of the chart, and here is Kevin Abey. And with the clock having counted down to 0, this will be his last lap in terms of this gear-up session. So the order, Enrique Marinon, Wojciech Polesny. So Enrique Marinon putting a lap in just right at the close of this session, and just besting Wojciech Polesny for P1 in the gear-up session ahead of Angelo Mikel and Mikel Schmiedel, Javier Loro, Alejandro Sanchez. Then it's Florian Hassa, Christoph Holstein, Loris Mistretta, Dominic Dedic, Mark Gasner, Yannick Vonenberg, Jan Teufen, and Roger Marte. Now, do bear in mind that actually the gear-up session is just a free practice. But of course, it does give the drivers the opportunity to really, really get their eye in and suss the circuit correctly. So, as you can see, into the lounge we go, and Fabian Vettel once again, who is co-presenting the entire program with us today, and delighted as always. Fabian, I said, just as we got to the closing stages of that the gear-up free practice session, are we going to get a sub-120 time? And then two drivers did deliver it. So you've got to be pinpoint accurate and perfect, haven't you, to get a sub-120 time at Imola?
Like you said, the gear up is really, really important to get focused and, like you said, get your eye into the focus to be ready for the knockout.
Now, in terms of the championship, we know Mikel Schmiedel has done it. We're going to take a look at the championship standings with regards to because as I was talking, going through the points during that session, you can see here the difference between Alejandro Sanchez and Angelo Mikel. This, of course, is with regards to P2 and P3. At the moment, Alejandro Sanchez on 98 points and Angelo Mikel on 78. Now, the difference is 2 wins for Alejandro Sanchez, and then here you can see the rest of the order from P3 down to P7. So it's still very, very close in terms of getting the, if you will, the final podium place in terms of the championship, and all the drivers are going to be very, very focused indeed on trying to finish as high up in the championship as they can, because not only do you have the honour of taking a very good place in the championship, Fabian, Racing Unleashed, so generous with the prize fund. There's big money up for grabs as well.
Yeah, of course, that's making the whole thing even more interesting, of course, for the drivers. Let's say it like that. But yeah, of course, it's also one more point how big the pressure is for all of those drivers, because they're not driving just for fun, they're also driving for high prize monies. Yeah.
Thank you, Fabian. Let's take a look at the track together then, if we may. This Imola circuit that I was talking about that is so tricky here. Okay, so the first sector, in my opinion, Fabian, is the sector that is the flattest. It's 4.9 kilometers with 12 left-hand turns for the entire lap, 9 right-hand turns for the entire lap. A 470-meter sprint from the start to turn 1, and it is one of the few tracks to drive counterclockwise. Of course, it is home turf for the Scuderia Ferrari. We take a look at some of the special elements of the track in due course, and this we're looking at the moment is Acqua Minerale. And when you've come downhill into Acqua Minerale, you then climb once again to go to the Variante Alta. Now, Sebastian, all the drivers seem to really nail the curves across these chicanes. Is that important?
Yeah, of course. You need to use all the track that you are able to use because, of course, especially on the exits of corners, you can just take more speed out of those corners. So you need to drive over the curbs, yeah.
And what's really curious about this track, in my opinion, and I've said it a few times, is that the start-finish straight really isn't straight at all. It's got two blooming kinks in it. And what amazes me is how close you run to the wall that delineates the track from the pit lane. You almost have to hug that to get a perfect trajectory along the straight.
Yeah, of course, and also if you are trying to overtake on the straights, of course, it's even one more point that makes it tougher to overtake out of the slipstream because you are not driving in a straight line, you are driving on that slightly right turn.
Yes, and then you head into the funnel, which is the Variante Tamburello, of course. All of a sudden you've got 26 cars all heading into that. Okay, we're going to get into our knockout qualifying now. Thanks once again to Fabian Vettel. He's with us for the entire program, and the safety car leads the cars away then. Now, as I mentioned, the drivers, when it comes to this knockout qualifying, they come out in reverse order in terms of Drivers' Championship. So that means the likes of those that are P1, 2, 3, 4, etc. in the championship are starting right at the back of the pack. And you can see Michael Smeedel is starting plumb last. Now, he needs to do some overtaking to be able to put himself into a very, very good grid position for the race to come. And even though he has sealed the championship, be under no illusion whatsoever, he will want to take the race win and end the championship on an absolute high. Roger Marte is in a privileged position because when the safety car peels off into the pit lane at the conclusion of this lap, we have some guarded laps where overtaking is allowed, but no cars get eliminated. Now, Roger Marte, of course, is going to have completely clear track ahead of him, so he can escape up the road and try and put some gap margin between himself and Yannick Vonenberg and Kevin Avey and Devin Iskro and Dominic Dedic, etc., etc. So we're on board with the safety car, which I believe is being driven by Jason Ferrati, who's a fine driver himself. And Jason then in the safety car, and you can see Roger Marte is champing at the bit to get going. This is Michael Smeedel then, who will also be champing at the bit to get going. And Roger Marte has said to me, it's going to be a podium today, Dave. Absolutely, that's what I'm going for. Safety car is slowing down then and into Ravazza 1, and now here comes Ravazza 2. The safety car will indicate right and peels off into the pit lane. And now it is Roger Marte that is leading the cars across the line to get this knockout qualifying underway. And here we go then. Roger Marte then breaking away and trying to escape. And let's see, Michael Smeedel already has got past Dominic Dedic. So, of course, every car that he overtakes, it elongates his stay in the knockout qualifying. And, of course, advantages him still further. Variante Tamburello right now, Dominic Dedic, and, a couple of cars have gone off, and that plays into the hands of both Michael Smeedel and Dominic Dedic and Angelo Michel as well. So Smeedel is up to P13, Sanchez is up to P12, Angelo Michel is P11, so you can see they're doing some overtaking already. Guarded laps initially, so drivers protected from being eliminated. On board with Dominic Dedic then, currently P14. Following in the wheel tracks of Michael Smeedel in that orange liveried Formula Hybrid X Evo 2022 car. He has Alejandro Sanchez ahead of him. Alejandro Sanchez, of course, last year's champion. This year has certainly played second fiddle to this man, Michael Smeedel, 13th out of 24. So through the two Ravazzas, a whole train of cars ahead of Michael Smeedel, who needs to find his way by. So Roger Marte sets the fastest lap, a 1:21.731. Now do bear in mind that we did see a sub 120 time in the gear up free practice session, and Michael Smeedel is under a bit of pressure there. I think it was Loris Mistretta that just tagged him. But Mikkel Smeedel kept it all together and kept it pointing in the right direction, and now finds himself P11. So Alejandro Sanchez, who's dropped down the order to P14. Now, if everything stayed the way it is at the moment, it would be a 7th-row start for Alejandro Sanchez. Here he is then, the very serious-looking young racing driver who is totally awesome inside the Racing Unleashed simulator. No question about that, by dint of him being champion last year. So Mikkel Smeedel then, it's P11 at the moment, which will be a 6th-row start. This is Christoph Holstein, who's running in P9. He's got Enrique Marinon and Mark Gasner ahead of him. And he tries to just swear as an opportunity, potentially, to get by. And here is Christoph Holstein. So heavy braking because you run downhill into this, into the 2 Ravazza turns. So the drivers that are in the drop zone, as Roger Marte posts another fastest lap, it's a 1:29.49. The drivers at risk of going out are Dominic Dedic and Javier Loro. And as you can see, everyone is jostling for positions. And whilst all this is going on, Enrique Marinon putting himself ahead of Mark Gasner, as indeed does Christoph Holstein. So this is the first of the laps where we see drivers eliminated. And at the moment, the drivers likely to be eliminated are Dominic Dedic and Javier Loro. So here is Javier then through the Villeneuve chicane. And as you can see, he's got a huge gap, almost insurmountable gap to Dominic Dedic. So these are the 2 drivers likely to go at the end of this lap. So Dominic Dedic then. Determination on his face, but now this could play nicely into the hands of Dominic Dedic and could elongate his stay in this knockout qualifying. He needs to get by the car ahead of him, which is Alejandro Sanchez and Jan Teufen. If he can get by just one of them, it means he will stay out for another lap. So you can bet your bottom dollar as they head downhill now towards the Ravazza turns. Well, Alejandro Sanchez takes a look to the inside now, and that is a good move from Alejandro Sanchez. Dominic Dedic remains behind both of the cars. So unless Dominic Dedic can do it now before the timing line, it looks like it's going to be Dominic Dedic and Javier Loro that we will lose from this first part of the knockout qualifying. Javier Loro now setting the fastest lap, ironically, and here is Dominic Dedic then, and as you can see, the look of disappointment as both Dominic Dedic and Javier Loro are eliminated from our knockout qualifying. Alejandro Sanchez now becomes one of those that could go out in these early stages of knockout qualifying. It's P13 at the moment for Alejandro Sanchez, P14 for Jan Teufen. Now that would be very, well, I would be very surprised, because Alejandro Sanchez, ordinarily, you would expect to see him at the sharp end of the grid, but this is what I love about the knockout qualifying and the elimination process. It just drives entertainment and drives overtaking maneuvers even during qualifying. It's like another race all over again. We love it. Enrique Marinon doing a good job in P7. Here's Jan Teufen. And Jan Teufen then with work to do if he's going to elongate his stay. And I would suggest that as the lap has run out, it's going to be the end for Jan Teufen and also for Alejandro Sanchez. He's driving in our Madrid lounge, and for Alejandro Sanchez, knockout qualifying is done. I'm amazed, absolutely amazed that Alejandro Sanchez and Jan Teufen are the drivers that are eliminated. So we stay with Enrique Marinon now. Wojciech Polesny gets by Kevin Abey. This plays nicely into the hands of Enrique Marinon with Florian Hasser alongside. And you can see Marinon is going to have the inside line here. And just his absolute commitment to stay on that inside means that he goes through to P6. So good driving from Enrique Marinon. Now, Mikkel Smeedel is not showing the prowess in this knockout qualifying that I expected to see, if I'm honest with you. It's P10 at the moment, and he's just the remainder of this lap plus one more from being eliminated from knockout qualifying. That would be amazing. The determination remains on the face of Michael, though. Running downhill now through the kinks before the Ravazza turns. And to be fair, it is really, really tricky to put an overtake on here at the Imola circuit. And here's Loris Mistretta heading towards the line. You could see there, just as they take the painted green, just how close they get to the fence. And for Loris Mistretta and Mark Gasner, it is the end of their qualifying, which now means in the drop zone, almost unbelievably, in P9 and P10, will become Angelo Michel. And not only Angelo Michel, but Mikael Smeedel. So if it all finishes the way it is at the moment, it would be a fifth row start for Angelo Michel and Mikael Smeedel. Hasse, Holstein, Roger Marte has not looked back. He has done exactly as I predicted he would, and that's built that gap of 2.6 seconds over Yannick Vonenberg. This is Christoph Holstein then running in P7, and Enrique Marinon is on something of a mission as well, as he moves up to P5 now and begins to put the chase on to Wojciech Polesny. What can Smeedel do in the remaining turns to elongate his stay in this qualifying session, this knockout qualifying? Don't think he's going to do it, you know. I think Mikael Smeedel is going to be saying cheerio to this knockout qualifying. It's going to be a fifth row start for him because he's going to finish knockout qualifying P10. And Angelo Michel will also be out as well, and he will have qualified P9. What we do know, though, is both of these drivers are certainly able to overtake, but one would argue that they didn't overtake as many during that knockout qualifying as perhaps we expected to see. Kevin Abe is currently P6. Enrique Marinon, who's been something of a star in this qualifying. Wojciech Polesny is really taking it to Devin Iskro as well. So they're fighting over P3 and P4. And here is Kevin Abe then, currently sixth fastest. He's driving in our Zurich Lounge. And this knockout qualifying then begins to reach the critical phase where we're talking about the first few rows of the grid. Roger Marte, 3.5 seconds to the good. Those under threat now are Christoph Holstein, and then Hasse as well is under threat. Here's Enrique Marinon then. And also Wojciech Polesny and Devin Iskro. So lots of jostling of positions as Wojciech Polesny moves initially past Devin Iskro, and Devin Iskro gets the place back. Here's Enrique Marinon then heading towards the line now. Always that serious look upon his face. Is he going to do two at once here? I have said that Enrique Marinon has been something of a star of this knockout qualifying. Been really, really enjoyable to watch. And this gaggle of cars, if you like, it's a four-way fight that's going on at the moment for the P3 place. So here is Enrique Marinon. Wojciech Polesny locks up a little bit, and you can see there that Kevin Abe getting a bit closer to Enrique Marinon. So Marte, very nearly 4 seconds up the road from Yannick Vonenberg. Then it's Devin Iskro. And here is Kevin Abe then fighting for remaining in this knockout qualifying. And a mistake there as he rattled just too much of the curb. And we could see from looking on board with Enrique Marinon that will have, really horlicked his chances in this knockout qualifying. He's going to go no further, I would have suggested. This is Enrique Marinon trying to thread through a gap here. Takes a look at the inside initially, then has to think better of it. On board with Wojciech Polesny, who's currently the third fastest. He's got Devin Iskro and Enrique Marinon right behind him. Oh, and look at that drag race that's going on between Enrique Marinon and Devin Iskro as they head towards the timing line. Absolutely awesome stuff between them. So then, of course, into the Variante Tamburello, and Enrique Marinon finding himself so sideways there, and that means that it's Roger Marte now 4 seconds to the good over Yannick Vonenberg and Wojciech Polesny, who we ride on board with now, and he's got completely clear track ahead of him. Very good qualifying from Wojciech Polesny, fellow countryman, of course, of the Czech Republic, like Mikael Smeedel. And Wojciech has had, during the course of this season, absolute moments of brilliance, which we've really enjoyed. So Yannick Vonneberg, and just behind Yannick Vonneberg, you can see there young Mr. Hirsch, who's watching on. It's really great to see him back in the lounge again. So Yannick Vonneberg then, P2. Roger Marte, though, has escaped up the road. You can almost not see Roger Marte in the same shot. Here comes Yannick Vonneberg, and we're going to say cheerio to Wojciech Polesny and Enrique Marinon. It's going to be a second row start for those two drivers, P3 and P4. So it's a really strong showing from Enrique Marinon, who drove really well in that knockout qualifying and finds himself starting the race then to come from the second row of the grid. Pretty happy with that, you could see as his face erupted with a smile. So Wojciech Polesny then, P3, which means that it's Roger Marte and Yannick Vonneberg who are contesting P1, but there's kind of really no contest because Yannick Vonneberg is 4.25 seconds behind Roger Marte, who obviously he's sprinting up and down the stairs today in the lounge here in Kemptal, has worked wonders for him. And he will be going from P1 unless something absolutely disastrous happens over the final few turns. Roger Marte ahead of Yannick Vonneberg. Again, another hugely entertaining knockout qualifying session then, as Roger Marte then through the Ravazza turns heads towards the timing line. It's going to be pole position for Roger Marte then. Absolutely brilliant job done, young man. Yep, he nods in agreement as if listening to me, which I can assure you he isn't. But Roger Marte then P1, Yannick Vonneberg P2. Of course, race control will take a look at everything that happened during that knockout qualifying session, just in case anything was untoward. Certainly nothing untoward for Roger Marte, I would suggest, who will be going from pole position. I can't see that there was anything that would question his what he achieved during the course of that knockout qualifying. So there, once again, you can see Sebastian Hirsch in the lounge, and that's really good to see. Great camaraderie as Yannick Vonneberg makes his way out of the simulator now. Very good qualifying for Yannick with the Formula X Hybrid 2022 Evo. Of course, we'll be starting the race P2. And there, Dominic Dedic, you can see in the middle of the picture there, as all the data is being looked at and discussed and talked about. All the drivers take this so seriously, of course they do, and quite rightly so. And of course, even though this is the championship conclusion today, please don't think that it's the end of the racing from Racing Unleashed, because we still have in December our non-championship battle for glory, which will take place both for the Challenger League and the Racer League at a to-be-determined track. I say to be determined, the track has been decided, it's just no one has chosen to tell me about it. It still remains a secret. Kevin Avey joins the conversation as well. So, yes, more racing to come from Racing Unleashed. Even when we finish our championship today, make sure you join us for our battle for glory. And Roger Marte, I have to say, there he is. I mean, he's literally a stone's throw from my studio here. Roger, you said to me just before getting into the simulator that you were very confident today. Your confidence and your fitness jogging up and down the stairs has paid off. Congratulations. Pole position, Roger.
Thank you. Yes, today I will win.
Okay, so the prediction has moved from the podium to the win now, Roger. Such is your confidence.
I win today. That's the most important thing today.
Well, you have given yourself the best opportunity to do that, because you will be going from P1, therefore everybody else is going to be behind you, Roger. Well done. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
Roger, whose English is almost as good as my Swiss.
Yes, that's true.
You weren't supposed to hear that. So Roger Marte then, pole position. Well done, friend. Delighted for you and best of luck for the race. He makes his way out of the simulator now and will go back to jogging up and down the stairs once again to put himself in the peak of physical fitness, ready for the race to come a little bit later on. Absolutely brilliant stuff. So well done to Roger. Well done to all the drivers for the knockout qualifying. Of course, that sets the scene really rather nicely for the race, the final race of our season, championship season. But as I said, not the last race of our events, because we still have that non-championship battle for glory to come. So all the drivers out of their simulators now, these wonderful Formula X Hybrid 2022 Evos, as developed by Andrea Montemini, and of course the simulators made in Maranello. So real heritage there in terms of motor racing, of course. And there you can see still discussions going on. And of course the racing to come, the full race at the Imola circuit, the very challenging 4.9 kilometer circuit with 21 turns, 12 of them are left-handers, 9 of them are right-handers. Now, there you can see our race control centre, the 3 bodies there on the, what is a pit perch, and a genuine pit perch with 8 monitors available to them. Right in the middle of that bunch of people is the driver representative on our race control board, one Mr. Carl Wendlinger. Hugely successful racing driver and thoroughly nice man. And Carl looks at all the decisions that race control make from a driver's perspective. So you can see Devin Isgro is right behind there, just taking a look. And let's take a look at some of the replays. And ooh, Dominic Dedic might be in for a slight penalty there, I would suggest. And this was Jan Teufen, less obvious there, because that might be viewed as being something of a racing incident. And Javier Loro also involved in some incidents, although who was at fault there, I wouldn't like to say, and that's why I'm glad I'm not a race director, I'm merely the voice. And Alejandro Sanchez, well, of course, he saw his knockout qualifying ended really, really early, and that was part of the reason for that. So Dominic Dedic involved in 1 or 2 little skirmishes on the track, and getting turned around himself, and Florian Hasse also trying to avoid trouble, but in so trying to avoid trouble, getting tagged here, but I think all ended okay. Did it not in the end? Yes, it did, although Florian lost out on a lap there. It's really interesting, Fabian Vettel, who rejoins us. Race control here in Racing Unleashed are very, very fair. They look at all the incidents, and as I mentioned, they also have Carl Wendlinger as a driver representative on that control board as well, because quite clearly, Fabian, you as a racing driver, sometimes you will see things differently to the race director, won't you?
I would say always. You always have a different perspective on racing incidents, especially if you are a part of that incident. But yeah, it's good to have Carl Wendlinger as a race director to check all of those racing incidents. We have seen, like you just said, we have seen some small incidents, nothing huge or nothing really big, but of course some situations to look after. And that's why Carl is a really important person in the structure of the race control.
I completely agree with you, Fabian. Now, you might not be able to see this, but I can, and that is going to be our provisional starting grid. And what is going to be very interesting about this provisional starting grid, and as I say, it is only provisional, we haven't yet got the confirmed grid, is that some of those high-ranking drivers in terms of the Drivers' Championship starting probably further down the order than they would like. So, P1, Roger Marte. P2, Yannick Vonenberg. Wojciech Polesny going from P3, be a danger man from there, potentially. Then it's Enrique Maranon and Devin Isgro. Then Kevin Abey, Christoph Holstein, Florian Hasse. And then, Fabian, we've got Angelo Michel and Mikkel Smeedel. They're going from the 5th row of the grid, P9 and P10. So some overtaking to come from them, I would suggest, Fabian.
Yeah, of course. It will be an interesting race, interesting starting part. You know, the first couple of laps, those 2 guys from P10 and from P9, they will try their best, because especially you have mentioned it before, Angelo is on P4, I think, or P3 on the
P3, you're right.
Exactly, and it's really, really tight until I think P7 in the championship. So he will try his best, of course.
And of course, it becomes even more difficult, doesn't it, on a track like Imola, which is tight. It is. You don't get a moment to relax. There's lots of turns. There's lots of chicanes. It's not so easy to overtake, Fabian.
Yeah, it's really tough to overtake. You just saw it in the knockouts where we have been now. So, like I said, Angelo will really try his best, but of course all the other drivers are trying it also. He will focus on overtake as much guys as he can.
You're right, Fabian, and we can see now the graphics with P3 for Angelo Michel, as you mentioned. He's on 78 points, just 4 behind is Javier Loro. Just 1 behind Javier Loro is Christoph Holstein. Then another 2 behind is Enrique Maranon, and Wojciech Polesny is only 10 points behind in P7. That battle, if you like, in that order from P5 from P3 down to P7, as you quite rightly said, Fabian, it's really, really close, and every position that you can gain in terms of the championship, it's bucks in your back pocket, isn't it, Fabian? So there's a real incentive for the drivers.
Of course, it's really intense. It will be really intense in the race now. So I'm crossing my fingers to all of them, of course, because it's so tight in the championship, and every one of those guys will try his best. So I'm really looking forward to it. Me
too, Fabian. Thanks so much for taking time to be with us, and Fabian with us through the entire program as well.
Of course.
So right now, we are going to take something of a little break, and of course, always before we take a little break and bring you lots of race action while we have the break, we invite you to join with our Fit and Fast ambassador, one Mr. Ralph Muller, our Chief Fitness Officer, who gives us some inspiration on how we can use our break time to become even fitter.
The lunge is an exercise to train the butt and legs. Let's start. Performed in a dynamic form, it is an intense exercise. At the same time, you train balance and your calf muscles. Stand with your feet hip wide apart. Now bend your knees with one leg while taking a step backwards with the other. Don't sit up for a long time, but immediately pull your leg forward and up again. Very important is also that we keep our foot straight ahead, not to left, not to the right, and also don't touch the floor with your knee. You can also do the lunge forward, depending on what suits you better. The standing leg always remains slightly bent. The back leg is always at 90-degree angle at the knee, and the lower leg is parallel to the floor. You do 15 per side. We never skip a leg day, right? Because we want to be champions. Racing Unleashed. Yes, that's a nice one. Off to the next.
This is Racing Unleashed Beyond the Pinnacle.
Hold on to your hats. We are on the grid. Who is going to be king of the late breakers? Excellent on-board shot. Michael Spiegel is throwing absolutely everything at this, including the kitchen sink.
He is a fighter, a warrior. And look at this! Look at this!
Unglaublich!
Wow, qué pelea!
I'm loving this.
Take your hat off and give him a bow. He's already in the lead, and now he can sail off into the sunset.
This is Racing Unleashed.
All right, speaking of fast drivers, honestly, massive congratulations to this year's Racer League champion, Michael Schmiedl. The racing has been unbelievable to witness. I think this guy has got a raw, pure talent, and to see you on the track and to experience you in the room is going to be a real honor. So once again, congratulations.
It was really, really awesome to watch you managing going through the whole field without forcing any collisions. Really important, of course, and that's how you are winning championship.
Michael now Schmiedl here. He's going to win at Spa, and he's going to win the Racer League Championship here at Racing Unleashed. And this man on your screen now is the Racer League champion, and what a moment that must be.
So if it's like confirmed, I can now celebrate, I guess.
Yeah, that is confirmed. You are the champion, and a high five, a hug, and the trophy. And Schmiedl is number one in the Racer League Championship, not just for the race today, but for the championship as well. And that confirms the prize money of the 15,000 Swiss francs in his back pocket.
Big congratulations. And I'm really, all our team in Munich, we are really looking forward for the last remaining 3 races and also for the final, the Battle of Glory.
Well, obviously, it has been a brilliant season from my side in terms of performance. And I think the main thing for me this year was to show up with a better racecraft. That was a little bit missing last year. So obviously it feels great, but still 3 races remaining and Battle for Glory race. So I want to be on the top on those as well. And we see how it goes.
Great start from your championship leader, who's trying to get through the pack and into the lead as quick as possible.
Look at this man. He is an utter powerhouse.
He's already in the lead, and now he can sail off into the sunset.
There have been some changes in my life, and now I feel more relaxed, more happy in general. So that's why the performance is better as well. So I changed my approach to it. I try to be like more professional. It's not like last year when I was like missing the practice sometimes, not driving enough.
Schmiedl, though, does try, and this time he's got alongside him. And Schmiedl has to lock up under braking, and Schmiedl has done it. Or has he? Because Dedic is coming back here. Dedic is going to have the inside for the next. There's a little touch between the two of them. Well, an absolutely clinical drive from this man.
The only thing that I can actually improve or change is the happening on the track. So that was the goal, because I was thinking so much last year about like certain things, certain like steward decisions, etc., that I wasn't paying attention on my own stuff. So that is probably, that's why I won the championship.
He's just picking places up one by one as everybody seems to be falling by the wayside. For Vertinger, Schmiedl is coming like a man possessed.
I think he's mentally very strong, especially as we have this reverse grid for the knockout. So he was the championship leader quite from the beginning of the season. Had to start always from the back of the grid in the knockout. Made his way through.
Alejandro Sanchez manages to come away for P3, but look who's behind him. It's his title rival, Michael Schmiedl. He's now attacking him once again, and this is an all too familiar sight for Sanchez. Schmiedl right around the outside. Will he brake later than Sanchez into this chicane? Loro can only watch on from the back, and Schmiedl on the brakes a bit earlier, and Sanchez turns in and taps the side of Schmiedl. Here comes Schmiedl having another look, and I tell you what, Sanchez, he is a brave man at the moment, and he is a fighter, a warrior in this championship battle with this man behind him. Up El Rouge come. Look at the launch Schmiedl got. Will he do what David C does yesterday? He tucks underneath now, and you feel that this run is going to be all important. Vandenberg could be an absolute blinder, and look at this, side by side they split Vandenberg into Lecombe, and Sanchez somehow keeps hold of it. Schmiedl tries around the outside, now on the inside, can't get it done, and has to tuck back in behind. Schumacher, Hakkinen-esque there between from these two, and what scenes we have here at Spa. Roger Mart down in 19th still, he's 2.6 off the back of Haas. Here though comes Schmiedl, Angelo Michel on the right hand side, your screen making moves, and Schmiedl now, he's already reached top speed. Here comes Sanchez backing him round the outside of Lecombe, and Schmiedl now gets the move done.
Congratulations, Michael Schmiedl, on winning the championship. You deserved it, and I hope next year we can have more of a fight. Well,
Straight after the race, I went to buy a few beers. So we had a few of those in a racing lounge in Munich. So that was great. And then obviously Wojciech had to drive the car, so he didn't have beer. Bye bye.
few beers to celebrate his championship win. And James, what a season Schmiedel's had. He's been absolutely fantastic,
mate. To be, winning at this stage is unbelievable. I've not had the pleasure of meeting him in person. I'd love to meet him. I want to say congratulations. Honestly, if you're just a spectator, do not underestimate the skill involved in this. It is the real deal.
The Challenge League grid order looks like this. Yannick Vonenberg will start on P1 with Kevin Abi then lining up alongside him. Dominic Dedic promoted to P3 with Mikael Schmiedl and Lars Bulmer also promoted up a slot. Alejandro Sanchez demoted down into 6th place. Any tips on a race winner?
Oof. I mean, I'm just going to have to go for Schmiedl. Because not just based on track record, just watching that guy, the way for me, he seems to thrive in an opportunity of having to work his way through a pack.
We line up then with David Ladamada on the grid in P19. Simulator problems for him early on caused him to have to change his simulator, and it meant he wasn't able to set a qualifying lap time. He hopefully then is going to be going in this one. Roger Marte in P18 alongside Wojciech Polezny then, who is in Munich in 17th place. Work to do for both of them to climb up the order. P16 on the grid then goes the way of Fabio Vertinger and Christoph Holstein in P15, who I believe we're going to speak to momentarily. And Christoph, are you there? Not at the moment, as he's just put his headset on. We believe that Christoph is going to be joining us in the commentary box for a little chat on the grid in just a few moments' time. And there you see in Zurich and in Kemptal. I believe we have Christoph with us now. Christoph, going into this one, P15, what can you do for the race?
Well, it's difficult to tell, really. It's always all about not getting caught up in any incidents. Normally not doing a good job at that, but we will see how it goes this time. Get some points on the board, that would be great. Just try to make any mistakes.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, my friend.
Thank you.
Christoph Holstein there in P15, and I do believe we have Fabio Vettiger with us as well, and 16th place. Fabio, a lot of work to do to score some points today.
Yeah, hi Matthew. Listen, it wasn't really the best knockout qualifying for me. Made a couple of mistakes on my own, and then obviously that incident with Wojciech Polezny, for which I've already apologized to him through the phone. So yeah, the game plan really is just to don't do any mistakes. Try to keep the pace up that I had through the trainings, and then see where it leads me.
Well, hopefully you'll gain some places in this one, and best of luck.
Thank you.
That is Fabio Vettiger 16th and Christoph Holstein 15th. Loris Mistretta in P14, and I believe we can get a word with Loris now. And 14th place, you're on the edge of the points. Can you get them?
Yeah, let's see. I hope I can get in the points, but it's going to be a chaotic race, so yeah.
Game plan for this one?
Dip back.
Well, best of luck, Loris. Have a great race. P13 alongside him is Enrique Marinon then, and in Madrid he's got a very difficult race ahead of him in that mid-pack, of course, on the grid. You never really want to be there at a tight, twisty circuit like this. Ivan Kaufman, P12 in Calm. He's fully focused and ready to go, and Javier Loro then lines up in P11 from Madrid. And a decent knockout for Javier, but a few mistakes. Can he iron them out? Can he get them sorted for this race? He looked like he had some good pace in the knockout session, so I'm sure he'll look to correct them. Mark Gasner then P10 in Munich, and Florian Haas in P9 also in Munich. It's an all Munich row, P9 and 10 in the points. Can they stay there and defend their positions in this one? Obviously two drivers in the background of both their screens coming up the order, and here is one of them, Angelo Michel, who I believe we're going to be able to get a word with, and Jan Tufin P7 and Angelo P8 on the grid for you. Some work to do to get on the podium.
Yeah. But I must be honest. Even if I'm starting from much more behind or much more in front, it's always surviving the first corner or more the first lap. So I will look forward to a clean race and hope just for the best.
Indeed, clean race and all the best to you, my friend. Have a good one.
Thanks, mate.
So Mikel P8 and Tufan 7th in Zurich. Lot of work to do for them too in this race. A long, hard race. Alejandro Sanchez P6 and Lars Bollmer in P5. And I believe we can speak with Alejandro, and a knockout session that has seen you drop down the standings. Can you make it back into the top 3?
I hope so. You never know, it's hard to overtake. Especially with the penalties given, sometimes it's a bit hard as well. But we'll try our best, as always, to keep our nose clean and to finish in the... Well, at least I want to win, but at least finish in the top 3.
Indeed, you look like you've got some good pace out there, so good luck and all the best.
Thank you.
Lars Bollmer lining up in P5 alongside him. Then the second row of the grid looks a little like this. In just a moment it does anyway. Here we go. The second row of the grid. Munich, the champion, the Racer League champion, Michael Schmiedel then in P4. Can he get another race win under his belt? And Dominik Dedic here in Kemptol being promoted to P3. Very happy he was when he spoke to Mr. JWW a little earlier on with his performance. And the front row of the grid, Yannick Vandenberg, as we know, kept his pole position. And he's lining up alongside Kevin Abbey in Zurich then. A new look front row with Alejandro Sanchez dropping down the order. And what is going through them two young men's thought process at the moment in this race. Like Yannick said earlier, it is a long run to turn 1. Anything can happen if you get a good start in this one. So that then is your grid order and the classified grid order for today's race here in the Race League. Let's have some fast facts now. The Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, the pre-season test track for the Formula One series. It's 4.675 kilometres long, 9 left-handers and 7 right-handers, with a 695-metre start from Yannick Vandenberg to turn 1. Europe's busiest circuit, and we saw that in the knockout qualifying session earlier on today. Here's what happened in the 2021 season, and oh, would you believe it? Michael Schmiedel was the man who took the race win and was very, very happy. Look, not his famous tap of the cockpit like we get used to seeing this season, but still very happy nonetheless. Turn 3, very tricky corner for the drivers out of 1 and 2. You come uphill and it's very easy to lose the back end of the car coming into there. Then you have the back straight. Can you lunge and send it into the hairpin corner? Maybe make up a place or two before you head to that final chicane. Very, very easy to lose a lot of time and get this horribly wrong before the start-finish straight.
The way to the first corner is quite long, so there could be a lot of trouble before the first corner. But the strategy, of course, is to make no mistakes. I'm still at the stadium, I would say, where I drive against myself.
Yeah.
And not trying to make any mistakes.
So, you know, the testing here, I found the optimum line for turn 5.
And some fun facts here, where Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg find their optimal line with pasta and ketchup.
That's the apex right there. If you go out quite wide here, then a V.
That's enough. Thank you very much.
That's the optimum line.
I fully understand that. That's great.
Nico Rosberg thinks he'll offer Lewis
I just want some
mayonnaise.
Have you tried it?
To go with his pasta.
I don't like it. Try that. Look, how is that for an ideal line right there? Huh? That's turn 4. That's if I make a braking mistake.
You always make braking mistakes.
No, I don't always make them, but that's what happens when I do.
I tried your tyres, man. They're all flat spotted.
People say they weren't friends. That's your fast facts, though, here for Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya in the Racer League today, as the drivers now find themselves lined up on the grid and ready to go here. We await the lights. And there's just a calm setting here in Kemptol as everything goes a little quiet. And the storm is about to hit the circuit. The drivers fully prepared, everybody focused. And you have to wonder what people are thinking, what their mindset is, and what will happen in this race. A great look at the Formula X Hybrid 2022 cars for this year in the beautiful Racing Unleashed liveries. Absolutely stunning to see. And their drivers just patiently waiting and biding their time for the red lights. Yannick Vandenberg and Kevin Abbe on the front row. Who will get the best launch? Michael Schmiedl right behind the two red arrows on the right hand side. Here's live in Kempthal the shot of all the drivers up and down our racing lounge here in Kempthal as the lights come on now. It's a long hold, and for the 8th time this season it's green and go in the Racer League, and it is a great start from everybody, especially the guys on the front row who already are hunting down towards turn 1 as the camera pans out now. All spread out into turn 1 they come. Schmiedl just patiently waiting, and up the inside goes a B. Round the outside goes Dominic Dedic, an absolute demon move into turn 1 and 2, and we've had a spinner. That is your pole sitter Yannick Vandenberg, who is off on the exit of the second corner, and a mistake already for him. But Kevin Abbe now leads from Alejandro Sanchez, who's had a fantastic getaway from 6th up into 2nd place and is being chased down by Schmiedl and Mikel already. Dedic losing out through the first few corners, then he's down to 5th place. Schmiedl then P3 at the moment, a bit of a gap to him, and Mikel has got a train of cars behind him, but we know this guy will just patiently wait and bide his time. And Alejandro Sanchez now up the inside, race lead early on in this first lap, and can he now start to pull away, build a big gap? Kevin there a little wide and cost him a mistake there that gifted Alejandro Sanchez this race lead. Everybody through the hairpin relatively okay. Javier Loro has had a mistake somewhere, he's dropped down to P19, but for this man a penalty dropped him to 6th place in knockout, and he's already in the lead of this one at the end of the first lap. What a fantastic start for Alejandro Sanchez. The two red cars behind Overby and Schmiedl both will be hunting him down now, and Kevin just made a little mistake that allowed Alejandro to get past as they come down towards turn 1. Schmiedl pulled out now, and he's going to look up the inside into turn 1, easy as you like, and now these two can reignite their famous battle they had last time at Spa. Will they be able to provide the entertainment again this week here at Catalunya? Already Schmiedl into P3, Angelo Mikel trying to get up onto the podium as well. Dominic Dedic not too far behind him. Lars Bulmer's dropped down to 17th place, and Roger Martin now down at the back of the order as he must have made a mistake somewhere. Christoph Holstein here then, P16 for him at the moment. He's lost a place from the start, and Yannick Vandenberg trying to work his way back up to the front. He's very wide through turn 5 with Vandenberg, and this allows Holstein here to just have a little look and an opportunity maybe to put Vandenberg under some pressure, and patiently waits to get through as they come towards the back straight now. Can he get close enough on the rear wing now with Yannick Vandenberg? From behind you see Christoph Holstein, just a little wiggle through the exit of the corner, and he can't get close enough into the hairpin, but if he stays close enough through this final sector, he could maybe have a good opportunity at getting past down the start straight. Dominic Dedic and Mark Gasner have both got past Enrique Marinon then, so maybe a mistake from Marinon as Alejandro Sanchez pumps in the fastest lap at 21.547, 2/10 quicker than Schmiedl last time around. That is all important for him to build a gap. Marinon, on the right hand side of your screen to the outside of Mark Gasner at turn 1, and it gives Gasner plenty of room and respect there, and Gasner returns the favour, and back through goes Mark Gasner into 2nd place. Left hand side of your screen you can still see Christoph Holstein applying pressure to Yannick Vandenberg, but Lars Bulmer's now deciding to join the party. A little wide through turn 3 for Lars Bulmer. That might make Javier Loro look a little more interested, as they use all the runoff possible to make the turn 4 as wide an entry as they can, and through goes Holstein as he now hunts down once again after Vandenberg, who has a huge lockup into turn 5 and just struggling at turn 5. 2 laps in a row that is now for Vandenberg, and Holstein might want to be a bit closer then next time around, as turn 5 seems to be where Vandenberg is just starting to make a mistake or two. Your pole sitter, let's not forget, Alejandro Sanchez, 1.7 seconds he's got, and who's that? Javier Loro in the background, well off over the the curb and the AstroTurf and into the gravel. Here is Ivan Kaufman then. Bit of traffic in front of him as he heads into the final sector. The chicane now, and you see 3 or 4 cars in front of Sanchez. Pumps in another fastest lap. And for Kaufman in that P10 at the minute, and has Pelezny and Haas and Marinon all in close company, and can get himself a few places here maybe. P10, there's a few cars just in front having a little look, and who's that in the background having a defend? I think that's Loris Mistretta and Jan Teufen having a little battle into turn 1, and I do believe Mistretta and Teufen side by side in the background you see there, and Teufen gets back past. Holstein has got past Vonenberg on the timing screens, and Javier Loro's got past Lars Bulmer as well, so job done for Holstein there then, as we're on board with Ivan Kaufman at the moment, right behind Wojciech Pelezny. Champion here, Michael Schmiedl, hunting down after Alejandro Sanchez in this one. 1.8 the gap at the moment, and Schmiedl so far doing what he needs to do to hunt him down, but he's a patient man. We see this in the knockout qualifying, we see this every week. It's early on in the race, he's being very patient and very calm and waiting for Sanchez to make a mistake or two. On board Wojciech Pelezny now, as has Haas in front of him. Couple of tenths he gains through the hairpin. Now stick with him, Wojciech, through this last section here, as Bulmer gets back ahead of Loro on the timing screens. If Wojciech can stay with Haas here, get a good run down the start straight into turn 1. It's a good exit from the chicane, and you have to say Florian Haas there got the better exit, just gaps him a little bit. Now Christoph Holstein on the back of another car. He's trying to make some impressive moves here and gain a lot of places in that slipstream. You see the 2 or 3 cars in front going side by side. Down the straight we come. That is Lars Bulmer and Loro going side by side, and up front that is Mistretta and Teufen once again going side by side. A puff of smoke as the driver locks up, not sure which one, and Loro gets back ahead of Bulmer in the background. So moves being made all over the place here, and Holstein on the back of Ladamada just having to patiently wait. What has happened to Mistretta up front? Because David Ladamada now looking to the outside at turn 4. Can't get it done the long way round. Can he keep his nose there for turn 5? He pulls to the outside, and Mistretta locks up going into turn 5. Ladamada just losing out a bit of a run there. Did have a nose ahead at one stage, and Christoph Holstein is patiently watching these two go through, and Mistretta there, a little lock up from him, and again just makes another mistake in front of Ladamada. And for Holstein here, not 1 but 2 places he can see it's an opportunity. David Ladamada has a look at the hairpin, but he's too far back, and Holstein coming under pressure from behind by the 3 cars behind him. A bit of a train forming here behind Mistretta then, the yellow Formula X hybrid. Hang on to it, Holstein, and he does beautifully there. Well held as he just got on the power a little too much and manages to keep the car pointing in the right direction. A wiggle there from Mistretta coming out the chicane as well. He's now got to hope that David Ladamada didn't get as good a run as he did. But look at Holstein here, the double slipstream from the 2 cars in front. He pulls out on David Ladamada now and into turn 1 up the inside. The 2 drivers from Kemptal, job done, and that is Javier Loro getting past Vonenberg in the background as we change to Loris Mistretta from the rear wing, who just seems to be struggling to get this car exiting the corners at the moment. Keeps having a bit of a wiggle and a bit of a snap mid-corner. But for Holstein then, P14 at the moment, and on his way up the order once again. Great pace being shown by Holstein. Was that Holstein looking up there actually as we say great pace? I think he's just locked up into the corner. Here's Javier Loro, who started P11. He's down in 16th place, so not the opener to this race that he'd have wanted then. And he is on the back of David Ladamada now, who just touches a bit of the curb, a bit greedy with it there, has a huge wiggle, and this could make Loro very interested. Send it into the hairpin. He does, gets alongside as Ladamada tries to close the door, but Javier Loro keeps his nose there, gets the job done. Alejandro Sanchez out front, 1:21.117, fastest lap of the race, 8 tenths quicker than Michael Schmiedl, and he's now 3.2 seconds ahead as Holstein still putting pressure on Mistretta for 13th place. Here's Florian Haas under pressure from Pelezny and trying to put pressure on Marinon. Then as Marinon is looking for a way past Gazner, there's all sorts of traffic, and when we said it's the busiest circuit in the fun facts, we wasn't joking. All the drivers using the runoff opens turn 4 for them as much as possible. And a great mid-pack battle here. David Ladamada back ahead of Yannick Vonenberg then. So Yannick Vandenberg must have just got ahead, and your pole sitter down in 17th, struggling to come back through the pack at the moment. But for David Ladomada, obviously had the simulator change after knockout qualifying simulator problems, so he's possibly getting used to the feel of that simulator. If it's just a little bit off, he'll know, and it's got to be playing in the back of his mind about what happened in knockout. For Marinon now then, 3.5 tenths of a second behind Mark Gasner, and not close enough as they come to the chicane. The top four, by the way, the top three have all gone. They're all separated by a good margin. And then Kevin Abbey in P4 has the car of Dominic Dedic right up the gearbox. Here is Lars Bolmer in Kemptal, and is trying to find a way through here then. P18 at the minute has Vandenberg right in front of him, and has David Ladomada there as well. David Ladomada's lost 2.5 seconds to Loro since Loro got through. Back to Wojciech Polezny. That up front is Marinon and Haas, I do believe. Sorry, Marinon and Gasner having a good battle here. Here's Polezny trying to get on the back of Haas. Marinon still trying to get close enough to Gasner, as Gasner's lost a lot of time to Dedic over the last part of the lap. Polezny here smells an opportunity of getting into that top 6. Gasner's got ahead of Marinon, and Mistretta gets himself ahead of Loro now, so he's back ahead of Loro on the back of Mark Gasner. Marinon is lurking behind him, and there is Haas and Polezny. Kaufman coming as well, so a lot of people trying to make up places here. Gasner though just seems to be struggling at the end of the last lap, because Marinon is coming at him. Christoph Holstein now on the back of Fabio Vertinger. These two started P15 and 16 alongside each other, and they seem to be following each other through the traffic at the moment, and they're on the back of Tufen for P12, for P11 potentially. And Christoph Holstein here, the determination in his face, absolutely focused and wants as many places as he can get. He's not far from the points here, but Tufen 6.1 seconds off the back of Kaufman, so he's got a lot of work to do to clear this traffic and get ahead and close the 6-second gap that he's got in front of him. Then he's right on the back of Vertinger now, and Christoph Holstein makes Vertinger goes defensively. Will he look around the outside of turn 1? He's already got the move done before turn 1, and Christoph Holstein, as easy as you like, he's carving through this field like your Christmas turkey dinner, and into P12 he goes. Tufen 9 tenths in front of him now, but it's got a massive job if he's going to get into this point. Holstein showing some immense pace in this race at the moment. Out front, Sanchez 4.2 seconds ahead of Schmiedel at the minute. Schmiedel 3.6 ahead of Angelo Michel, and then he's got 5.8 seconds to Kevin Abbey, who has Dominic Dedic right all over the back of him. And in fact then there's a big gap back to Kaufman. Here is Sanchez. He just looks like he's having a Sunday stroll in his cockpit there in Madrid. He is cruising, pumping in fastest lap after fastest lap. And this man really is on another level here today. Schmiedel doesn't have an answer for him at the moment and loses another 4 tenths to Alejandro Sanchez last time around. So fantastic work, and really did it all in the first lap. The penalty to his name clearly after knockout hasn't distracted Sanchez from his goal here today. Here is Schmiedel then, another man that just looks as cool as ever. Through into turn 4 he goes. Just doesn't seem to have the pace of Alejandro Sanchez today. Angelo Michel, a colleague of Schmiedel's in Munich, doing the best job he possibly can to make sure that he can close the gap to that man in the background, Michael Schmiedel. But you have to say that these three very evenly matched and very spread out. Here then, Florian Haase on the back of Wojciech Polezny, who's just started to lose out to Enrique Marinon, who is all over the back of Mark Gasner. Tries to go side by side, you see, up front, but couldn't do it into the right-hander. Now possibly has his best chance down the hairpin. That's Gasner who goes defensive. Marinon's going to try right around the outside. Can he tuck back underneath? What an absolute move that is. Does he get it done? No, he doesn't. Gasner hanging on in there, and this has invited Wojciech Polezny right back into this fight. Dominic Dedic now in P5. looking to get on the back of Kevin B. Holstein's got past Tufan now, so Christoph making it yet more moves into the pit. Top 11 he goes. 7 seconds he's got to find to get that top 10, and we are halfway through this race, so he's running out of time, but is showing fantastic pace. Here goes Marinon to the outside, and is that going to be job done on the brakes before turn 1? Brakes very, very late, and back comes Gazner. Bit of wheel-to-wheel contact there, but very cleanly done by the pair of them, and that look has put Wojciech Polesny so wide at turn 3. Has a bit of a wiggle as well. Does this allow Florian Haas to come through? It does. Lock up from Haas, and then underneath tucks Koofman, and well, a mistake from the 3 drivers in the background, and Koofman comes away up into P9, and while all these drivers, these 5 are squabbling here, this allows Holstein to cut the gap. It's already down to 6.1 seconds, and Koofman there gains a place as Florian Haas tried to tuck underneath Wojciech Polesny and just locked a wheel up into turn 4. Koofman now on the back of Polesny. Lock up from himself. Polesny on the back of Gazner. Marinon, job done. And just in front of Marinon is Dominik Dedic and Kevin Abbey, as the top 3 have just checked out here in a world of their own. And there is Dominik Dedic just fighting with the wheel a little bit, and you just see from his facial expression there that he just knows he's made a little mistake coming through the chicane, and that's cost him the run down the start-finish straight to get onto the back of Kevin Abbey. You saw it in his face. He knew he'd made the mistake. Javier Loro for P14 has got past Mistretta, and Dominik Dedic has that work to do all over again. A fantastic knockout qualifying session here, and as Mr. JWW, James Walker, spoke with him earlier, he was very happy, but he'll be disappointed with his error at the chicane there at the end. And look at this battle once again. Florian Haas on the back still of Koofman, Polesny and Gazner. Then Marinon has dropped Gazner, and Christoph Holstein here has the gap down to 4.8 seconds. He is showing some incredible pace at the moment and is really gaining on this little quartet of drivers here. Here is Florian Haas in Munich, and just cannot get close enough to the traffic in front. It was his mistake that allowed Koofman through. There in the background, look, you see Holstein, 4.4 seconds the gap now. He's really on for some points. If it was 7 seconds 2 laps ago, he's gained 3 seconds over that 2 laps. What pace Holstein is showing us today. Ivan Koofman on board him behind Wojciech Polesny. Polesny there just bouncing over the sausage curb, had a bit of a slide on the wiggle, on the rear, sorry, and a wiggle as he corrects it. Marinon does his best lap of the race, and you see Koofman going a little defensive. Here is Wojciech Polesny then, trying to stay in that slipstream of the car in front, and Dominik Dedic has come under pressure from Marinon, and I do believe Enrique Marinon has worked his way through, and that is Who's that off? That is Enrique Marinon, who's had a mistake somewhere. That's coming through turn 1 and 2. Didn't quite see what happened, but down into P10 he goes. Christoph Holstein now is even closer to the points, and that promotes Dedic back to 5th. Gazner, Polesny, Koofman and Haas all up an extra place as well, but for Dominik Dedic, he's well behind Kevin Abbey now. 1.3 seconds he has to make up, and for Christoph Holstein, 2.5 seconds from him and a point in this championship battle. And Enrique Marinon, you know, who wanted to outscore Wojciech Polesny today, only needs to outscore him by 3 points to gain an extra place in the championship. And with Javier Loro not yet in the points, it would have gained even more places for him. For Holstein, he wants to not lose too much ground to Angelo Mikel, but at the minute that is happening. On board with Enrique Marinon now after his mistake at 1 and 2, has got work to do on the back of Florian Haas once again then. And the traffic jam here at Catalonia. Holstein 2.5 behind Marinon. Marinon has some fantastic pace in this race at the minute. And down the start straight they come. Everybody now to start lap 14 here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalonia. Race 8 of the Race League series here at Racing Unleashed. And I tell you what, the drivers, everybody here has been relatively clean at the moment, and very good driving from all drivers. Dominik Dedic needs to get back on the pace here then and close that gap back to Kevin Abbey for that top 4. That's Mistretta very wide at turn 3, and Vertinger then manages to hang on to P14. and through. He goes into the middle sector. Florian Haas now, P9 at the moment, trying to stick to the back of Kaufmann, but has Enrique Marinon charging after his mistake at turn 1 and 2. And he's really coming after Haas here. Holstein not able to close the gap to Marinon, but is closing the gap to the cars in front. And the more Marinon starts to get holed up and starts to fight with these drivers, the better. Schmiedl just puts in his fastest lap of the race. Not the fastest lap overall, but his personal best. And that gap, 5.3 to Sanchez, I think is too late for Schmiedl to get anything out of this race. A second place, I think the top three look pretty set in stone here. All provisional results, let's not forget. And snake-like movements down the straight. Here comes Marinon now on the attack of Florian Haas. Into turn 1 he goes. He's got Kaufmann just in front. Does it, pulls in front into the braking zone. And Marinon back into P9 and can head after some more places here. And after his mistake a couple of laps ago, he now is on the charge to get as many places as he can. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars potentially in front that he could all get past and be in that top 4 or 5 spot come the end of this race. The top 3 have gone that much that Kevin Abbe has Dominic Dedic back within a second of him now, but he's 11 seconds behind Angelo Michel. So Michel here is absolutely flying at the moment. And Enrique Marinon using as much curb as possible there to get as much to extract as much speed from the car as possible. Then all drivers having a look, just getting a little tighter in this top 10 fight here. Christoph Holstein now 1.8 off the back of Florian Haas and can set his sights after some points maybe in this one. He's had some fantastic pace. As through the drivers come, Wojciech Polesny into the final chicane on the back of Gazner now, who's just got a bit of breathing space between him and Dedic. Dedic being able to put the distance between the two of them. And Polesny, then you see Gazner all over the place on the straight trying to break the slipstream, and Polesny follows him and goes with him and just gets closer and closer, and Gazner moves once, holds his ground in the middle of the track, forces Polesny the long way around, and Polesny then a little wide and has to return that place back to Gazner. Indeed he does so, as Javier Loro now has got past Jan Teufen. That is for P12. Christoph Holstein must have made a mistake somewhere because he's just lost a few tenths to Florian Haas then over the last lap. But for Polesny, work to do. Javier Loro cannot see a car in front of him, but is being attacked from behind. And the man who sits 5th here would have wanted to catch Holstein in the championship a little bit here, but is not going to score a point for P12. Saying that, neither's Holstein, but they are going to be gained. They're both going to have Enrique Marinon gain on them in the championship. There's Teufen here then, trying to stick with Loro. Sanchez crosses the line to start the 17th lap of the race. Schmiedl follows him through. Polesny once again then getting closer and closer to the car in front, and once again will attempt it down the start-finish line here. But we've seen the snake-like movements of the green Formula X Hybrid 2022 car in front. Goes to the right now, comes back to the left, cannot break the slipstream, but it's very clever here. He's gone earlier and comes back across. And will he move to defend now as Polesny gets closer? No, not close enough. And look at Dedic up front. Marinon's got past Kaufmann in the background, so that's a change for Enrique Marinon as well. Dominic Dedic up front, right on the back of Kevin Abbe for P4. And Marinon, once again, he's working his way through the field. And here is Dominic Dedic. Oh, bit of a wiggle once again. But he's getting on the back now of the car in front, who's very wide at turn 5. And Kevin Abbe then is coming under some pressure from Dedic. And Dedic's driving a fantastic race at the moment. He's a little wide through the chicane. It's not going to hurt him too much. A good run through here, though, as he loses a few tenths. Set him up in the last sector for a good slipstream down the start straight. Polesny now has Marinon on the back of him as he's still trying to attack Gazner, but Dedic just losing a bit of time in the middle sector. To Abbe up in front of him. Nail this final sector, Dominic, and you could be a very happy man in the slipstream down the start-finish straight then. Gains a tenth at the moment, a tenth or two at the moment, as on the power they come. Here goes Dominic Dedic now then, within 0.6 of a second, using all the runoff available to him on the outside. And behind him, Gazner defending from Polesny once again, and Dedic getting closer and closer to the back of Kevin Abbey. Not close enough. Look at everybody defending in the background. Polesny's not going to be able to attack Gazner then, and I think Haas is defending from Holstein, and Koofman is defending from Haas. Koofman then has been passed by Haas, and Holstein on the back of a couple of points here now, and can sniff an opportunity at maybe a point or two in this Racer League race at the moment. Holstein's got past Koofman on the timing screen, so he's into the top 10, and that is points, and can see the car in front, who they both lock up. All three drivers lock up into turn 5, and Koofman round the outside. Job done back in front of Holstein, so a mistake from Christoph Holstein then, allowing Koofman back through and out of the points. Drops Holstein once again here. Top 3 completely separated. Koofman has the pressure from Holstein behind him into the hairpin, running out of time. We're on lap 19 of 22. If Holstein's to get some points, he's got to do it now. If Marinon wants some more, he's got to do it now. We're running out of time. Remember yesterday, Valverde left it till the very final lap to get past Yannick Pletcher. Are we going to see a bit more of that today? Dedic on the back of Kevin Abbey down the start straight. He comes, he's a little bit closer this time around, and that slipstream's going to have more of an effect as they come towards turn 1. Not close enough for Dominic this time around. He needs a better look at the closing speed on the brakes into turn 1. He needs a better exit in that middle sector, is where he seems to be losing all of his time at the moment. Gap back up to just under half a second here then. Back on board, Wojciech Polesny. He's got Marinon behind. He's got Dedic and Kevin Abbey up front. And he's still got Gazner right in front. And Wojciech must be able to paint a picture in his mind of the back of that Racing Unleashed Formula Hybrid X 2022 car in its colours and everything, because he's been stuck behind Gazner now for majority of this race and just cannot find a way through. That was a lock-up from Kevin Abbey and makes Dominic Dedic a little interested now. Dedic is a lot closer in the final sector, and this is crucial for his run into the start straight. 3/10 that gap, and Dedic needs an almighty run out the chicane. On board Dedic now, and he gets a decent run at the moment. Keep it nice and tidy, Dominic. Now he's really close, and the 3 cars behind all getting the benefit of a slipstream. Can Dominic Dedic here pull out and make a move on the rear wing of Kevin Abbey, who goes defensive to Dominic Dedic, who pulls to the outside now of turn 1 and has the move done? Not just yet, he does now at turn 1, holds it for turn 2, and that is Dominic Dedic into P4. And it's been a long time coming. A very patient Kevin Abbey, who loses out to Dominic Dedic very wide, and through goes Gazner, through goes Polesny, and in 3 corners he loses 3 places, and now has Enrique Marinon right on the back of him. Holstein still battling with Koofman for that final points position here as we are on lap 20 of 22. And we've not even seen the front 3 mainly in this race, because they've been in a race of their own. Marinon on the back now of Abbey after a mistake, and now he puts a wheel in the gravel, just pushing a little too hard maybe. And the train of cars, Polesny, bit of a lock up at the hairpin. Look, there's Florian Haas on the back. Then there's Tufan, there's Holstein. Javier Loro wants a point in this race. They're all so close together in the middle of this race. And I tell you what a fantastic battle to the end. Are we going to see some moves like we did yesterday from Valverde? Top 3 in a race of their own. Bit of a parade, if you will. Here comes Gazner defending from Polesny once again. Abbey and Marinon side by side in the background, and Marinon is going to go side. That is Gazner, who was attacking Dominic Dedic, and I do believe has got the move done on Dedic. And has Dedic come back at him? Yes, he has. Dedic gets the place back, and now Polesny looks to make a move on Gazner, who was slow through turn 3, and Polesny to the outside of 4. Can he hang it around the outside and keep a nose in for 5? No, he can't. And Gazner, late lunge from Wojciech Plesny, late on the brakes, tapped the back of Gazza there, and you might want to back out of that one and tuck him behind. He does now attacks once again into the chicane, and these two side by side. Plesny just gives him enough room, and that allows now Enrique Marinon to come through past Gazza, and he gains another place. Fantastic battle here as Sanchez enters the final lap of this race. All of these are still on lap 21, and look at the traffic in the background. It is really getting chaotic here. Gazza, is that him back past? No, it was Haas getting past Abi then, so he's down to 9th place now is Kevin Abi. He's gone from 4th to 9th in 2 laps. And well, did Wojciech Plesny push to pass there? That will be the real question. I'm sure Race Control will be taking a look at that one. It's been a fairly quiet race in terms of incidents up until that moment. And the busiest track on the calendar is proving to be just that once again. Kevin Abi defending now from Kaufman, goes to the inside. What was 4th 3 laps ago is now a fight for 10th place. Up the inside, give him the room for 2, and he just tries to close the door, and contact made. They both managed to keep going though, and Kaufman maybe just a little lift to give Abi the place back. David Ladamada's dropped down to 19th, so I'm not sure what's happened to him there. A 27.6, so a pretty bad lap from David Ladamada, but Abi then just closing the door on Kaufman. That's allowed Loro through, who's got past Holstein and Kaufman, and now Tufen's got past Holstein, and Vettig has got past Kaufman. What's happening to Kaufman and Holstein? They are dropping down the order here, and they are stumbling at the very end, and I believe Alejandro Sanchez, he's already crossed the line and has won this race in great fashion. We missed that. He's been on his own in this one. Michael Schmiedel's going to cross the line for P2. Angelo Michel for P3. James, what a fascinating race that was. What can you tell us at Race Control at the moment?
Well, as you can see, drivers are glued to it, quite rightly so. I had the honour of being directly in Race Control during the race. The breakdown and the information and how seriously these guys take it is fascinating, and that's why immediately, straight out of the cockpits, the drivers come down here just to check out what's going on. I have actually had confirmation that the positions are now locked, so we will be getting those shortly. But right now, it's an intense moment until these guys find out what's what.
That this is the confirmed podium then. Alejandro Sanchez, your race winner, with Michael Schmiedel 2nd place and Angelo Michel P3. Angelo, a very, very quiet race after the start.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, I must say. I got a a great start from P8. Got into the first 2 corners. I was already, I think, 5th. After the 3rd corner, I was 4th, and then I got in the 2nd lap Aibi. And from there on, I was trying at the beginning to keep up with Michael, but it was very clear for me that the pace is not there. Unfortunately for me, Michael didn't achieve to catch up Sanchez for the championship for me. So it's great points for me, but for the championship, it's a big loss.
P2. It's not the worst result in the world, but you just didn't seem to have the pace of Sanchez today.
Well, the first thing that happened to me was obviously I was a little bit unlucky with the happening in the first 2 corners, so I had to back off there, and obviously Sanchez went around the outside, which was the better solution of that whole thing. After the first lap, I already knew that it's not going to be enough today, and I basically settled to P2 and put the car to cruise control mode.
Race Control still going over every incident at the moment, and we're joined now by our race winner Alejandro Sanchez. And what an opening lap. Just talk us through it.
I got lucky and I picked the right lane. That's what happened. They started crashing into each other, and I came out of T3 already P2, so it was I knew I had the pace, so it was just a matter of getting into the rhythm and going into P1 as well. He made a mistake, so it was quite easy to overtake him, and then from then onwards just keeping on pushing to build a gap to his middle. Sometimes the game was lagging as well, so it was sometimes difficult, but I think I made a great job keeping my pace.
And your podium celebration then, as we see here in Munich, 2 drivers. Angelo Michel will get his P3, and a very good congratulations to him for that one as he lifts it high. And Schmiedel getting the 2nd place. And a very, very good job today in Munich for them too. Victorious in Madrid. And he receives his trophy, a shake of the hand, and a P1 for Alejandro Sanchez. A very, very good job from him.
Hi, my name is Ralf Möller. I'm the Chief Fitness Officer of Racing Unleashed. For esports, sim racing, physical and mental fitness is important. 30 to 60 minutes of exercises per day are important for your success. Use your bike instead of your car, or just take a walk. There are no excuses. Running, cycling, swimming, or gym. Just keep it going. So get fit and fast with a Gladiator. Racing Unleashed. See you soon.
Ralf Möller then advising how important it is, physical fitness. And here are two examples of non-fit with me and very fit with Fabian Vettel. Because actually, what Ralf says throughout the Fit and Fast program is so important for racing drivers, whether sim racers, real racers, or a combination of the two, whether you're a hybrid or not. Actually, mental and physical fitness, so important, isn't it, Fabian?
Yeah, mentally, sim racing is really, really important. So you need to prepare yourself before a racing weekend like we are having now. So you need to be ready, not just physically, but also mentally, yeah.
So what goes through a driver's mind now as they're preparing for this, the last race in the championship? Of course, we do still have the Battle for Glory to come, but from a championship point of view, it's the last race of the season. What's the preparation for a driver now? Is he just psyching himself up, thinking about how the first sequence of turns can go? Tamburello, particularly. What goes through a driver's mind? I mean, every driver presumably has a different sort of routine, or was there something that you did in particular before racing, or do before racing?
Yeah, I would say every driver has his own ritual or his preparation before getting into a car or the simulator. For myself, it always music was a big point, and of course some warming up exercises and stuff like this, just to be, let's say, heated up, to be ready physically, but also mentally to do some reaction trainings and exercises. That always was my preparation before jumping into a race car, for example.
So come on, Fabian, you and I are good friends. Let me into the secret here. What were you listening to? Was it Van Halen? Was it Michael Jackson? I mean, it's all artists from my era. No, of course not. You're in altogether more modern era of music. Is there a genre that you particularly like? Are you a hip-hop boy or what?
Well, it's, let's say, a mix of some electronic music and some hip-hop music, and just the songs that I'm listening to in the moment. So, of course, the music should be a bit more exciting, let's say. So no jazz, for example, or so.
Thanks, Fabian. You're always very truthful with me, and I really appreciate that. Okay, as we can see on these graphics now, and I have the benefit of seeing these, Fabian and I have been talking about just how incentivized our drivers are, because this is the prize money that's been up for grabs during the course of this season this year. In total, if you totaled everything up, you're talking a prize fund of over 200,000 Swiss francs, which is an enormous prize fund and a real incentive for our drivers, of course, as they develop their careers, whether in sim racing or whether they hybrid race and race in real cars as well. And then not only do we have those season prizes, but the prize money for the Battle for Glory as well, across both the Challenger and the Racer League, where take P1 in the Battle for Glory, 7,000 Swiss francs as a Racer League driver could be yours if you took P1. I mean, that's real incentive for drivers. And the Battle for Glory is on a secret track on December the 11th. It will feature both the Challenger League and the Racer League. And they say secret track, and it is very much a secret. I don't know what track it's going to be at. Do you know, Fabian? Have they let you into the secret?
No, I didn't know either. So I just saw the prize money for Battle of Glory also for the first time now. And now I'm thinking about talking to Racing Unleashed and organizers to do maybe a guest start. Because, of course, earning 1,000 Swiss francs is not too bad.
I have to say, I mean, there were our whole mantra this year has been beyond the pinnacle, and I think, to be fair to the whole organisational team of Racing Unleashed, it has been a wonderful season, and so many things have changed. And I mean, that prize fund, as you alluded to, Fabian, $7,000 in your hand for taking P1 in the Battle for Glory non-championship race. That ain't shabby, is it?
Yeah, of course, everybody wants to win a race, but if you're ending up on P1, for example, in the Racer League and the Racer race at the Battle of Glory, and you're earning 7,000 francs, let's say that's the bit of an extra to go home after that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So that is the battle for glory to come, and of course the championship still to be done today. We know who is P1, Michael Schmiedl, of course we do, but there is still quite a fight going on for P2, P3 and P4, and Fabian, as a racing driver, if you know you can't win the championship, and that's beyond your sight, being the best you can within the championship is still critical, isn't it? And as we can see here, the difference between P2 and P3 at the moment is just 20 points between Alejandro Sanchez, who had a torrid qualifying today, and Angelo Michel. So Angelo will be going all for it, won't he?
Yeah, he will. He will go full send, of course. I think he's starting P9, so he has a big exercise to do for the race now, but he will. Of course, I will talk to him after that small interview and ask him what his strategy will be, because, of course, he will go full send.
And a real incentive for those drivers then to occupy those P2, P3 positions within the championship.
Yeah.
But what I think has also been good about the organisation this year, Fabian, is the fact that it's not only the winners that get rewarded, there are, big prizes up for grabs all the way down the order. So you feel that every driver has got an opportunity to score big, but also to take home big prizes as well. And this is what's unique about Racing Unleashed and makes it so compelling for the drivers, I would think.
Yeah, it makes it even more professional because, of course, every driver knows what chances he has. And that makes it even more, let's say, technical and more tactical also through the race for every driver, because every single driver knows what is the prize money and why is this so important to stay on track and finish in front, of course.
Fabian, as always, great to talk to you. We'll be speaking to you more during the course of the program.
Thank you
so much. Fabian Vettel, one of our Racing Unleashed ambassadors, as we will take a look at how things are lining up for the race to come then. And this is the way the grid will start then. Roger Marte and Yannick Vonneberg will be on the front row of the grid ahead of Wojciech Polesny and Devon Iskro. Then it'll be Enrique Marinon, who looked really, really feisty during our knockout qualifying. Kevin Abey, Christoph Holstein, then Florian Hasse, Angelo Michel and Michael Schmiedl then on the fifth row of the grid with work for them to do. Mark Gasner, Loris Mistretta, and then look, Alejandro Sanchez. He's further down the order than he would like to be with Jan Teuf and Dominic Dedic and Javier Loro. And may I just say that in that grid graphic that you saw there wasn't a letter P against any of the names. Knockout qualifying so clean and tidy, not one penalty was issued to any driver. Let's hope that's the same during the course of the race today as well. We will see, and we're not that far away from race action getting underway. This is Racing Unleashed. We're delighted that you're with us. Thank you so much. We don't say it often enough. We love the fact that you are enjoying it as much as we're enjoying presenting this program to you, and of course the drivers love the fact that they're being watched as well as they go about their business and try and do the very best they can on track. And talking of tracks, it is Imola that we are racing at today. It's a very tough circuit for the drivers. 4.9 kilometers, 21 turns, 12 of them left, and 9 of them are right-handers. And of course, it is one of the few tracks where you race in an anti-clockwise direction. So it's a real test for them, where Sector 1 is relatively flat, and then Sector 2 and 3 are quite undulating with hills up and down, of course. And that final sequence, if you like, going into the Rivazza turns is one of the better overtaking opportunities, of which there are not so many around the Imola circuit. So we're looking forward to a good race to come this afternoon. Our final race in our season, our championship season for 2022. Where we already know that Michael Schmiedl is the champion, but who will be P2, who will be P3 in the championship, and furthermore, who will be P1, 2 and 3 within the race itself. A very, very interesting prospect, and it's going to be very, very good to watch. Very much looking forward to that. Now, someone that knows about Imola and can tell us a little bit more is our ambassador, Mr. JWW. Here he is.
So hello, welcome back to Imola, Italy. Now this is one of those iconic tracks that has been on the calendar for decades. But today we're bringing you something entirely different in the Racing Unleashed Sim Lounge. Now what's fascinating about this track is it's one of the very few where the circuit goes anti-clockwise. So that in itself presents a different set of challenges for the drivers. Now it's going to really put these guys to the test because it's a complete blend of really high downforce sweeping curves, late braking points and some much slower hairpins. Now the race today is going to be super close. It's one to keep an eye on because the circuit overall is really fast and these guys are going to be pushing themselves to the limit. Don't go anywhere, be sure to tune in.
Thank you, Mr. JWW. James Walker, then our influencer, very much part of the Racing Unleashed family, explaining just what a test the Imola circuit is going to be for our drivers who take part in the Racer League race here at Imola today. So he explains the circuit very, very nicely, and we get a thorough understanding of just what a task and what a mountain to climb our drivers are going to have in this awesome race to come. It's the final race of our championship for 2022. It's not the final event. We still have that battle for glory to come. But the final race in the championship, it's been a phenomenal season, I have to say. And, of course, Michael Smeedel goes into the race as champion. Will he win the last race today?
This is Racing Unleashed Beyond the Pinnacle.
Hold on to your hats. We are on the grid. Who is going to be king of the late breakers? Excellent onboard shot. Michael Smeedel is throwing absolutely everything at this, including the kitchen sink.
And he is a fighter, a warrior. And look at this! Look at this!
Unglaublich!
Wow, qué pelea!
I'm loving this.
Take your hat off and give him a bow. He's already in the lead and now he can sail off into the sunset.
This is Racing Unleashed.
Indeed it is, and this is our grid set. Ready to go. Javier Loro goes from P16. Dominic Dedic is going from P15. They are situated in our lounges in Madrid and Zurich. So that is the 8th row of our grid for our Racer League. And let's check in with Dominic Dedic here, who had a torrid time of it during the knockout qualifying. It didn't go the way that Dominic Dedic would have liked it to have gone. Dominic, good afternoon. Friend, you've got some overtaking to do this afternoon. There's only one way for Dominic Dedic to go, and that's going to be forward, and you heard it from the horse's mouth. Not that I'm comparing you to a horse, Dominic. Of course not. Well done, Dominic. We wish you the best of luck. So there is Javier Loro and Dominic Dedic. They are going from P16 and P15 on the grid. So big thumbs up from Dominic Dedic. We go to the next row of the grid then, and we will find I'm being told, actually, we can speak to Javier Loro. Javier, I was just saying that Dominic Dedic had a torrid qualifying in knockout. You had an even worse one because you're going from P16. Therefore, the target is 15 cars ahead of you, Javier.
Yeah, today is a really tough race, so we will see what happens.
Well, of course, presumably you will go into this with the attitude that you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, and it will be maximum attack.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. Javier Loro and Dominic Dedic then, who are on the 8th row of our grid for our Racer League race. Jan Teufen and Alejandro Sanchez, P14 and P13. That's going to be tricky. So Jan Teufen, who's based in our lounge in Zurich, and Alejandro Sanchez, as always, of course, is in Madrid. And may I remind you that Alejandro Sanchez is effectively the outgoing champion. And Alejandro Sanchez, as you're in the simulator and you're about to start the final race of this year's season, how do you reflect on this season in comparison to the last one? Of course, you won the championship.
Missed 2 races, so chances of a championship were minimal. But overall, I'm happy with my performance with this new format. I don't think it's entirely representative of the performance of each driver, but there is other factors at play and other skills at play, not just speed and racecraft. But yeah, overall happy, and we'll see today. Nothing to lose really. Only P2 in the championship, but it's possible, but highly unlikely. So I'll give it my best.
Alejandro, you say their racecraft is going to be so critical, and it is going to be critical for you today. Best of luck to you. Alejandro Sanchez, thank you for talking to us. He goes from P13. Jan Teufen, as I mentioned, going from P14 to the next row of the grid, which will be the 6th row of our grid then. For our Racer League race, it's Loris Mistretta going from P12 and Mark Gasner going from P11. Let's check in with Loris Mistretta now. 6th row of the grid. Loris, yeah, it's a tall order ahead of you, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a little bit difficult in the qualifying, but let's hope to finish on a higher end in the season. So let's see how it goes.
And Imola, of course, overtaking opportunities are not so plentiful. You've really got to work hard, Loris.
Yeah, the dirty air is not. It's a bit not so good right here. So let's see what happens. But I hope I can go to the top 6, top 5. Let's see.
Loris Mistretta, well done. You have got the pace, and he's targeting P5, top 5, top 6. So best of luck to you in calm then, Loris Mistretta.
Thank you very
Mark
much.
Gasner is going from Munich. So now we get what a row this is, the 5th row of the grid. And P10 for Mikael Smeedel, P9 for Angelo Mikel. Let's check in with our champion-elect, Mikael Smeedel, first of all. And he's in our lounge in Munich, as indeed is Angelo. But Michael, a good afternoon to you. And
yes.
Here is Mikael Smeedel. I think he can hear me now. Going from P10, I have to say, I just know how you can overtake. You didn't do it though in the knockout qualifying. So are you gonna show us your sparkle during the race?
Mate, you sounds like you are disappointed with P10 from my side. this track is like difficult. I mean, it's not like every time I'm in the top 5. So yeah, let's see what I can do. I mean, I have nothing to lose, and I'm just gonna enjoy some great racing, hopefully.
Nothing to lose, everything to gain, and I tell you what is really nice. Best of luck to you, and Sebastian Hirsch is sitting behind you, supporting you as well. Well done, Michael. We'll see you at the end of the race. Angelo Mikel is going from P9, of course. Angelo, target is facing forward. 8 cars ahead of you. Get past them all, can't you?
We will see. I'm expecting everything, but I will just wait. We will see the result in 30 minutes.
Okay, yeah. So you're playing your cards close to your chest, though. We wish you the best of luck, Angelo Mikel and Mikael Smeedel. Then going from P9 and P10. That is the 5th row of our grid. And Michael's saying there, you sounds like you were disappointed with my qualifying, Dave. Well, you know, Florian Hasser is going from P8, and Christoph Holstein is going from P7. Those 2 drivers, they're in Munich and they are in Zurich. Christoph Holstein, quick word with you. It's a good qualifying for you, going from P7. Podium a possibility, Christoph?
Yeah, I hope so, obviously. Thinking of the championship as well. So, yeah, as you said, it was a decent knockout, so we'll see how it goes.
Best of luck to you, Christoph Holstein, going from P7. Let's move to the next row of the grid, which of course is the 3rd row of our grid, where we find Kevin Abey and someone that I thought was an absolute star during the knockout qualifying, and that's Enrique Marinon. They go from P6 and P5. They are racing in Zurich and also in Madrid. So that is the 3rd row of the grid. To the 2nd row, where we find a brilliant qualifying from Devin Iskro. He's in Kemptal. And Devin, you and I were having a conversation just before you got into knockout qualifying. You've done really well. Congratulations, P4. A podium has got to be guaranteed for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks.
Devin, of course, who has suffered from bad luck in certain races during the course of this season. He's going from P4, and going from P3 is Wojciech Polesny then. A brilliant knockout qualifying from Wojciech Polesny, and he'll be hoping for good things going from P3. So best of luck to those two drivers. And nice to check in with Devin Iskro. Now, Yannick Vonenberg is going from P2. He's in Munich. Good afternoon, Yannick. Front row start for you. Well done for your performance in knockout qualifying. So Yannick is not able to hear us. I hope Roger Marte can. He's not so eloquent with the English language. He's brilliant with Swiss, and he's brilliant at driving as well. And Roger, you are going from pole position. Going to convert that to the win in the first lap. Surely, Roger. Okay, Roger is deciding not to talk to... I can understand that. He's fully focused and concentrating on the race ahead. So there is the front row of the grid. Roger Marte and Yannick Vonenberg. Let's see how all the drivers do. They are down there on the grid, as you can see, as we get ready to go racing for our first and last race here at Imola, because it is the last race of the championship. First time we've been to Imola this year, though, and it is going to be absolutely awesome. Who can do what? Bear in mind, the championship has been sealed, but P2, 3 and 4 in the championship has not been sealed yet. So still everything and plenty to play for on this fantastic 4.9 kilometre circuit. So the start-finish straight is what we're looking at now, and the start-finish straight is anything but straight. It contains two kinks. Here come the red lights. Hold on to your loose clothing. We are going racing. This is Racing Unleashed beyond the Pinnacle, and a brilliant start there from P2 for Yannick Vonenberg. And you can see as they head in now towards the first chicane, which is the Variante Tamburello. It's something of a funnel then as all the cars get together there, and inevitably one or two are in strife. Yannick Vonenberg is P1, Devin Iskro is P2. The hard charger in the qualifying was Enrique Marinon, and he finds himself in P3 as a number of cars go around. And already Michael Schmiedl has made it up to P5. Now, one of those drivers was Roger Marte, involved in that opening lap or opening turn skirmish. He's gone all the way back down to P13 from his pole position start. So he's got a lot of cars to try and get by now. Alejandro Sanchez up to P7, but Enrique Marinon now gets the better of Devin Iskro, and he's put it into P2. So Enrique Marinon's going to be chasing this man, Yannick Vonenberg, who is P1. So it's Vonenberg P1 from Devin Iskro, gets ahead of Enrique Marinon momentarily, and then Marinon comes back and through the chicane. Has Marinon done it? Has he been able to seal the deal and get into P2 and convert it? Yes, he has. So Vonenberg, Marinon, Iskro, Schmiedl up to P4, having got by Kevin Abbey. So Michael Schmiedl now P4. Brilliant driving from our champion-elect. And Michael Schmiedl then on target then, and he can see the two cars in front of him. Now, the first of those cars would guarantee Michael Schmiedl a podium then as he runs along the start-finish straight here at Imola and puts the first lap in the book. It's Yannick Vonenberg who's built up a very nearly 3-second lead over Enrique Marinon. Here is Christoph Holstein then, and wow, Christoph Holstein then in all sorts of strife, and Roger Marte is able to take avoiding action and clear the lot. And here is Christoph Holstein now, and he finds himself P11 now. Schmiedl has got a podium place. He's got by Devin Iskro. He's up to P3. So Christoph Holstein from P11 now, chasing down Roger Marte, who's recovered and put himself into a podium place. And look at this man go. Michael Schmiedl is absolutely nailing this. P3, he can see the P2 car ahead of him. That is the target. And Michael Schmiedl then, who's got about a second and a half to make up. Here's Alejandro Sanchez then running in P7. There he is. We split the screen for you, so you can see Alejandro Sanchez inside the simulator, and also how he's working hard, and the inputs in the simulator, what they relate to in terms of how we see the car perform out there on the track as well. So he has Kevin Abbey and Jan Teufen ahead of him. So Sanchez going for it now, and Enrique Marinon sets the fastest lap as he chases down Yannick Vonenberg and closes the gap. And here comes some live overtaking for you as Alejandro Sanchez, and also See Jan Teufel involved in that mix, and Alejandro Sanchez thinking discretion the better part of valor through the first chicane then, and not able to move up, but it's a question of when, not if. Surely Alejandro Sanchez will be able to convert that P7 into P6 and get by Kevin Abey. Well, here he is now, chasing Kevin Abey and Jan Teufel. So Kevin Abey now, if he gets a good run, he just tucks behind Jan Teufel, but here comes Alejandro Sanchez trying to get the stream off the back of the car. Dives to the inside, not quite close enough, but then advantage played as Kevin Abey runs wide, and that plays nicely into the hands of Alejandro Sanchez, who moves up to P6. What a race this is turning out to be following the early lap skirmishes. Brilliant stuff going on here. And here is Alejandro Sanchez on Jan Teufel. Wow, that was a bold move, but it was a move that worked. So now Alejandro Sanchez is up to P5. So the current champion until the end of this race, Alejandro Sanchez, then is now in P5. Lots going on behind with Jan Teufel and Kevin Abey and Florian Hasse as well. And Mikkel Smeedel getting ever closer to Enrique Maranon. And here is Christoph Holstein, who we ride on board with right now. He's running in P11 at the moment. He has the P10 car well within his target sights ahead, and he's going for it. So Yannick Vonenberg, his lead, you may recall, was some 3 seconds. It's down to just 7/10 now, as Enrique Maranon is really taking the chase to Yannick Vonenberg. 6/10 now. We will pick up our leaders shortly, I am sure, because that is going to become an intense battle, because there's less than a second between P1, P2 and P3 as Christoph Holstein finds his way onto the grass, and that puts him behind Angelo Michel. So Vonenberg, Maranon, Smeedel then, as I say, less than 8/10 between the top three. There's Christoph Holstein then, and here's Florian Hasse. He's chasing down Kevin Abey. So Enrique Maranon now, we can see from the graphics on the left-hand side of the screen, he's under 3/10 away from Yannick Vonenberg. And that battle for P1, P2 and P3, where there is 3/10 between first, second and third places. Here we do. We pick up the battle then. And you could see there that Yannick Vonenberg is trying to break the toe. Just trying to break the slipstream effect from Enrique Maranon as Maranon goes to the inside now. Maranon surely has done enough here. Mikkel Smeedel tucks in behind Yannick Vonenberg, who is relegated to P2, but here comes Mikkel Smeedel. Gets a very good exit out of the second chicane, and he's got the momentum now, and he goes sailing by Yannick Vonenberg, and now the chase is on. As they exit the Variante Villeneuve, the chase will be on to our new race leader, Enrique Maranon. He was such a star in the knockout qualifying, and now the star is going to be pursued by the champion, Mikkel Smeedel. This, meantime, is Alejandro Sanchez up to P5. He's got Devin Isgro ahead of him. And where will he be able to find his way past Devin Isgro? We're still very much in the early stages of this race, and so much going on as Alejandro Sanchez has to take avoiding action. It was a big save from Alejandro Sanchez. He was just too close to Devin Isgro, and rather than make contact, he dived to the runoff area. And that avoided any contact with Devin Isgro. Big gaggle of cars here. Florian Hasse is right in the middle of that. Kevin Abey is ahead. Behind is Loris Mistretta, and Roger Marteo, of course, you will recall, started from pole position. They run into Ravazza 1 right now, and great to be able to watch these cars battling in the mid-order. The fight that is going on for P6, 7, 8, and we're on board with the P7 driver at the moment. That is Kevin Abey. Along the start-finish straight here at Imola, heading in towards the Variante Tamburello, that first chicane. You really have to wrestle the curves and try and carry as much speed as you can. You try and straight line that chicane, which is really, really difficult to do. And on board with Florian Hasse now. Variante Villeneuve. It's the second chicane here at Imola. There are three really, really big chicanes at Imola. The Tamburello, the Villeneuve, and of course the Variante Alta. So Enrique Maranon has got some 8/10 over Mikkel Smeedel, and then Yannick Vonenberg, who's in that P3 position out on his own, really, is a couple of tenths behind Smeedel and a couple of seconds behind Smeedel and a couple of seconds ahead of Devin Isgro. Here's Alejandro Sanchez then. Talking of Devin Isgro, he's the very man that he's trying to get by now, and Devin Isgro, makes a mistake. That plays into the hands of Alejandro Sanchez. You can see the smile on his face maybe the pressure that he was putting on Devin Isgro caused Isgro's mistake. So Alejandro Sanchez says thanks very much. He's in that P4 position now. He's got quite some time to make up, though, before he will be on terms with Yannick Vonenberg. Enrique Maranon sets the fastest lap. It's a sub-120 lap in the race itself, a 1:19.988 from Enrique Maranon. And here's Angelo Michel then. Bear in mind the big fight that's going on for P2, 3 and 4 in the championship, and every point is going to be absolutely critical. And at the moment, Angelo Michel is not even in the points. So through Tamburello he goes then, chasing the 2 cars ahead of him. And as you can see, he's got Roger Marte and Dominic Dedic ahead of him. He tries to go to the outside of Roger Marte, and that was not going to work. Angelo Michel will have another go now around Toza. Now, this is where Angelo Michel could pay off for him. And we can see another car in strife there, dropping down the order. And I think that was Loris Mistretta in strife. So Angelo Michel and Roger Marte having a real battle here. And the big beneficiary could be Loris Mistretta, who puts himself right alongside Angelo Michel and through the Acqua Minerale and up the Acqua Minerale, heading towards the Variante Alta now. Well, you don't know which way to look because there is so much going on in this mid-order, if you will. And here is Wojciech Polesny, who P12, now make that P11, potentially, if he can get this job done. Braking hard now and loses the P11. It becomes P12 once again as he's involved in that big fight going on there with Wojciech Polesny and Jan Teufen ahead of him, and it's Mark Gasner behind him. So here is Wojciech Polesny, but meantime here is Alejandro Sanchez. Sorry, it is Wojciech Polesny who has to run through the gravel here and loses out on 2 places to Mark Gasner and Jan Teufen. So Wojciech Polesny having a torrid time of it in the race, it has to be said, as are the cars behind him. And Loris Mistretta out on the gravel. That puts him almost plumb last, 1 from last, P15 now. So Wojciech Polesny not yet in the points. Got 3 cars to overtake before he could find himself in one of those points-paying positions. And going into this, Wojciech Polesny then, bearing in mind P7 in the Drivers' Championship, P1 in the Drivers' Championship, Mikael Smedel, and that position cannot be taken away. But you can almost see the frustration on Mikael Smedel's face there as he's trying to reel in Enrique Maranon as if he's on the end of a fishing line. As Smedel now sets our fastest lap, a 1:19.951, and gets ever closer to Enrique Maranon. So Maranon, who for my money was the star of the show in knockout qualifying, so many overtakes he did, has got the championship leader-elect behind him, right behind him, but 8 tenths is the live gap between the 2 of them. Here is Enrique Maranon. Then he's driving in our Madrid lounge and driving really competently. So he accelerates up and then very late lifts just a little bit, and that means he's able to increase by just a couple of tenths the gap between himself and Mikael Smedel. Now Smedel on the uphill section here will try and get closer to Enrique Maranon. Leave braking till the absolute last minute for this chicane. Through it they go. And this is Devin Isgro, who's running P7. He was in a podium place earlier on, of course, and Devin Isgro has fallen back down the order now, having been overtaken by a number of drivers, but nonetheless it's a very creditable performance from Devin Isgro. And just as I say that, he uses the runoff area, and Devin Isgro is encroached a little bit by Dominic Dedic, who's right behind him. Enrique Maranon now responds to Mikael Smedel's last fastest lap with a fastest lap of his own, and it is the fastest lap of the race, a 1:19.859 now from Enrique Maranon. So the gap between P1 and P2 stays at about a second, which is just a little bit too much. So Maranon, Smedel, Yannick Vonenberg steadfast in P3, although Alejandro Sanchez is getting closer. Then it's Kevin Abey, Florian Hassa, Devin Isgro, Dominic Dedic, Angelo Michel, and Roger Marte completing the top 10 the way it looks at the moment. And we are on lap 10 of 23. I said that Alejandro Sanchez was getting close to that final podium place, and here he is. Now, last time around, when we were on board with Alejandro Sanchez, we saw he absolutely piled the pressure on the car ahead of him. This time it's Yannick Vandenberg. Will Yannick Vandenberg yield to the pressure being placed on him by Alejandro Sanchez? Alejandro Sanchez dives to the inside, and I have to say that is a masterclass of overtaking from Alejandro Sanchez, who now is in P3. And Yannick Vandenberg is relegated to P4. However, Sanchez has got like 9 seconds to get on terms with Michael Schmidl. Surely, despite the fact that Alejandro Sanchez is such an accomplished driver, to try and make up 9.5 seconds in the 12 laps that are remaining in this race, that's going to be a big ask. Mark Gasner then, currently P12. There you can see just how close they get to the Armco that protects the pit lane. Absolutely run the cars so close to it. And for the moment, I have to say Enrique Marinon has got this absolutely sewn up, because he's maintaining that 1 second gap between himself and Schmidl. Will Schmidl come good towards the end of the race? Dominik Dedic then, P8. P7 is a possibility, and he can see the P7 car ahead of him. And that's what he's going for here. Dominik Dedic is in our Zirich's lounge with support behind him, as you can see. Dominik Dedic giving it everything as he tries to wrestle away the P7 place from Devon Iskro. Devon Iskro driving in our Kemptal lounge, all our lounges together, of course, in our Racing Unleashed competition, whether they be Kemptal, Zurich, Madrid, Munich or Calm. And it's Devon Iskro that is in Kemptal. He's literally just a couple of meters away from me in the simulator, and he's running in that P7 position with Dominik Dedic, really piling the pressure on now. A little lockup coming ahead of them as Florian Hasser puts himself ahead of Kevin Abey. That slows them all up and allows potentially Dominik Dedic to get even closer. So Florian Hasser then in that P5 position. Here comes Kevin Abey then, just pulling himself out of the slipstream here. It's a long way around the outside though at Tamburello, but it does give you the inside line, and I tell you what, that was a brilliant move, and also a brilliant move from Devon Iskro too. And Dominik Dedic trying to take advantage of that also. The big loser was Florian Hasser. So Iskro, Abey and Dedic all together. And you can see the lockups coming, and Dominik Dedic piling on the steering lock as they climb uphill now from the Tosa turn, heading towards Piratella. Enrique Marinon leading by 1.1 seconds now, so he's extending his lead over Michael Schmidl. And here Florian Hasser then trying to make good the wrongs that happened just a lap or so ago, and try and find his way past Kevin Abey. Angelo Michel is lurking in the background, and Roger Marte, of course, completing the top 10 at the moment. So there's Hasser running downhill now towards the two Ravazza turns. Here's Ravazza 1. Clip the curb on the in and run just a little bit wide on the out. Sets you up nicely for Ravazza 2. And of course the start finish straight with the couple of kinks in the middle as Schmidl gets just a little bit closer to Enrique Marinon, but nothing meaningful yet. And I just wonder whether Michael Schmidl is holding on to this for the end of the race as Angelo Michel. Oh, and someone has gone around there, and that was Devon Iskro. Devon Iskro then, who sometimes his rucksack full of luck runs out very, very quickly. And here is Devon Iskro now, who's got to try and make his way back up the order. You can see the determination. So in all of that, it means that Dominik Dedic now is P5, Angelo Michel is P6, Kevin Abey is P7. Well, make that P8 as Florian Hasser did get by and then gets so sideways. That drops him down the order because both Polesny and Gassner go by. Devon Iskro is next. Here is our race leader, Enrique Marinon. Super serious, but super quick. You can see how much of the curbs they take. They just don't hit the sausage curbs, just takes the first part of the curbs. And there you can see P1 and P2. Schmidl As I say, he's not got right onto the back of Enrique Maranon. Tyre deg, of course, will play a part when it comes to the final part of the race. Will that allow Michael Schmidl, who may have managed his tyres just a little bit better, to get closer to Enrique Maranon? We will see. This is Christoph Holstein now, going after Loris Mistretta. So Christoph Holstein having to brake and then dive behind the Loris Mistretta car. He continues, tries, as Loris Mistretta does get up the road a little bit, with Christoph Holstein almost losing the back end of the car but holding on to it. But you can see he's under pressure from Jan Teufen, who, following that earlier skirmish, is running in P15 now. Lockup came there from Loris Mistretta, and that allows Christoph Holstein to get just a little bit closer. This is Mark Gasner, who is chasing Wojciech Polesny, who's found his way into the points. He's running in P9 now. He's a good 1.3 seconds down on Roger Marte, though, who has recovered from his pole position and the early laps problems that he had to bank a P8 at the moment. And Enrique Maranon sets another fastest lap, a 1:19.836, which increases the margin between himself and Michael Schmidl to 1.5 seconds or just beyond that. And there is Schmidl, who he will be in awe, I don't doubt, of the way that the lead of this race is being driven by Enrique Maranon in Madrid, doing a really, really good job. And Michael Schmidl doing his level best to get on terms with him here. But whenever Michael Schmidl has put in a series of fastest laps, Enrique Maranon has responded. So they've both clearly got the pace, and we're on lap 15 of 23 here at Imola, our final race in our championship for the year. The Racing Unleashed Racer League Championship will come to a close at the end of this race, although we still have racing to look forward to, with a non-championship battle for glory to come. Here's Christoph Holstein, who's allowing the cars ahead to battle, and he was just there to pick up the pieces. That was a great fortuitous move there from Christoph Holstein, who allowed Jan Teufen and Loris Mistretta to battle themselves, and then just said, thanks very much, I'm coming through. And that's what he did do, and didn't need inviting twice. So that puts Christoph Holstein up to P12 now, with Mistretta and Teufen then running P13, 14. Javier Loro and Devin Isgro P15 and P16. Here is Jan Teufen then in our Zurich lounge, running in that P14 position, with the two cars ahead of him into Ravazza 1 and now Ravazza 2. So Teufen with Javier Loro and Devin Isgro behind him, as Enrique Maranon extends his lead by another couple of tenths to 2 seconds over Michael Schmidl. Brilliant driving from Enrique Maranon. I was really impressed with him during our knockout qualifying, and being equally impressed with his racecraft in this race. I mean, basically he's had clear tarmac ahead of him for lap after lap after lap, and what he's done is just set absolutely brilliant laps as Jan Teufen finds himself in the runoff area, and Devin Isgro finds himself in the barriers, along with Javier Loro having problems as well. So Maranon's lead up to 2.2 seconds now over Michael Schmidl, and Alejandro Sanchez still some, 8 seconds down on the likes of Schmidl and Maranon. This is Florian Hasser then, P11. Very much got the serious face on as he tries to nail a position in the points then, and what's preventing him doing that? Well, it's getting past the Mark Gasner car, which he needs to do. Wojciech Polesny is in the points, running in P9, targeting the P8 driver ahead of him. Through the gearbox, lovely to be on board with Roger Marte, as he is in P8. Bear in mind that Roger started pole position, and then the opening lap with all sorts of problems for Roger Marte, which found him relegated down the order. Angelo Michel, well, perhaps another driver that will be disappointed with how Imola has shaped out for him, running in P6. The P5 car is ahead, and That P5 car is driven by Dominic Dedic, and Roger Marte just losing out to Wojciech Polesny and also Kevin Abey. He must have had an off somewhere, I would have suggested, because he's dropped down now to P13 and is continuing to drop. So strife for Roger Marte, who promised so much in this race. Here's Angelo Michel then, with Dominic Dedic ahead. Dominic Dedic, for the moment, is able to show a clean pair of heels. So Roger Marte will be very, very frustrated, I'm sure, to find himself P13, having done such a brilliant job in knockout qualifying. Enrique Maranon, Michael Smeedel still contesting P1 and P2, although at the moment there is no contest, truthfully, because Enrique Maranon has got a clear 2.5 seconds over Michael Smeedel, who in turn has got good advantage over Alejandro Sanchez. The two champions together running P2 and P3, and by that I mean Alejandro Sanchez, last year's champion, Michael Smeedel. Come what may, wherever he finishes in this race, he will be champion. But a P2 would be very nice. He would far rather have a P1, I am sure of that. However, Enrique Maranon has just been able to drive such a good race that Smeedel has not been able really to get close. Here we split the screens to give you both two battles, as Wojciech Polesny making contact with the back end of Kevin Abey, but Wojciech dialed out of that so that no advantage could he gain from the little tap with Kevin Abey, which was no more than a racing instant, but if it had gone through, maybe it would have been looked at a little bit harder. So Angelo Michel has spent some corners and some laps actually tucked up in this P6 position, and not able to find his way by the car in front, and he's following Dominic Dedic very, very closely. But Dominic Dedic is doing a very good job of, he's not really even having to defend. I just think he's got, they are so evenly matched in terms of pace that it is going to require a mistake from Dominic Dedic to allow Angelo Michel to get ever closer. Now, bearing in mind, going into this, Angelo Michel was P3 in the Drivers' Championship. Now, Dominic Dedic much further down the order, P12, but now Angelo Michel is taking a look around the outside of Dominic Dedic. It's a long way around the outside there, but if you can maintain that position, and they go side by side, and to be fair, well, Dominic Dedic is allowed to defend that position. He's got track position, and that's precisely what he did, forcefully, and why not? He's not going to give up that P5 to Angelo Michel without a fight, and what a brilliant fight they are having between them. So this is Dominic Dedic that we're on board with right now, and this is Angelo Michel, who is doing the chasing on Dominic Dedic as they run downhill now. Will Angelo be the king of the late breakers and dive to the inside? Well, he was not close enough to be able to do so. So Dedic is able to put another lap in the book in P5. Now, can Michel get close enough to have a go going into the first chicane, the Variante Tamburello? Well, he increases, narrows the gap, takes a look at the inside, shows his face, but Dedic is all over it and is able to once again defend his position, but it's now that Angelo Michel gets even closer. He dives to the inside here. Racing room is left through the second chicane, the Variante Villeneuve. And again now, and he's got a backmarking car. That could have so been a problem for him, but Angelo Michel and Dominic Dedic then go side by side, but Angelo Michel does win out in the end. And it took him 2 or 3 turns to make the overtake, but he did make the overtake in a very fair fashion as well, and Dominic Dedic now is relegated to P6. So we are on lap 20 of 23. Make that lap 21 of 23 as Wojciech Polesny, who is P10, continuing to chase the P9 and P8 cars ahead of him. They are Kevin Abey and Florian Hasser. Kevin Abey in the purple colours and Florian Hasser in the all-yellow Formula Hybrid X Evo 2022 simulator. Maranon, Smeedel, Sanchez, it's as we were in terms of P1, 2 and 3, and P13 belongs to this man, Javier Loro. Through Ravazza 2, onto the start-finish straight once again. Just take a look at the times. It remains 1.9 between our race leader and our P2 driver. If anyone is making moves forwards, it's, well, I was going to say it was Alejandro Sanchez, but he lost another 10th in that last lap as well, and he's now a full 8 seconds behind Smeedle and Marinon, and with just, well, we're on lap 21 of 23. Time is running out. This is Roger Marte then, with Wojciech Polesny in strife dropping down the order, so that advantages Roger Marte up into P11 with Javier Loro chasing him. Now for Roger, it's Loris Mistretta is the target ahead, just a tenth or so ahead of him. And here is Wojciech Polesny then, wiping a bead of sweat away from the brow. It's jolly hard work in these simulators, you know. Lap 22 of 23, the sharp end of this race then, and Enrique Marinon is just beginning to lose a tenth or two to Michael Smeedle. Now, I did wonder whether it would come right at the end of the race. There is the very confident Michael Smeedle then, the very hard-charging Enrique Marinon, who has been brilliant, is being chased down by Michael Smeedle. The gap remains really, really big between the two of them, but Smeedle is doing everything to narrow that gap. It's all very well narrowing the gap. He's got to find a way by him as well, and it's down to 1.2, which is the closest it's been for a long time in this race. So Marinon goes through. Here comes Smeedle then. And Enrique Marinon, who's just not made any mistakes at all, has been clinically perfect in nailing every apex. But the gap has visibly come down now. We're on lap 22 of 23, which means as Enrique Marinon crosses the timing line, we start the final lap. This is Kevin Abey. He's running P9 in the points. He starts the final lap. Just one more lap for Kevin Abey, but of course he's a long way back. They're running in the Variante Alta. So Marinon and Smeedle, the gap, well, it remains the same at about 1.2, 1.3 between P1 and P2. So here is Kevin Abey then. And on the final lap of this race here at Imola. And Smeedle then, looks to me like he just doesn't have the legs to really challenge Enrique Marinon and to end the championship season. Well, you can't end it much better than winning the championship, which is what Michael Smeedle will do, but he would love to end the championship in the final race with a race win. It looks like it's going to be a P2, because here comes Enrique Marinon. He was a star in knockout qualifying, and the star has shone even brighter still in the race as Enrique Marinon will head towards the checkered flag now. He hugs the Armco, and you can see already the absolute delight as he takes P1. Enrique Marinon becomes a race winner, with Michael Smeedle taking P2. Already Enrique is being congratulated. And Michael Smeedle then takes P2 and Alejandro Sanchez takes P3. It's going to be Yannick Vonenberg who takes P4. And Smeedle, I think, gave it everything he'd got, but it just wasn't quite enough to get on terms with Enrique Marinon. And here Alejandro Sanchez banking a very, very important P3. So that should, I think, if my mathematics are accurate, that should guarantee Alejandro Sanchez second in the championship, I think. So there is Alejandro Sanchez. I mean, to take second in the championship, having missed a couple of rounds as well, is an extraordinary achievement. Enrique Marinon, who went into this race P6 in the Drivers' Championship, I think he will have made up a couple of places in the Drivers' Championship. But all importantly, he has won the race and won it in fine style. As I said, he was superb in the knockout qualifying. And there he is, being congratulated. Brilliant driving from Enrique Marinon. Yes, that's how happy he is. He is, of course, in our Madrid lounge. Whoa, whoa. Well done, young man. An awesome drive. Awesome drive. And now we can cross into our lounge there. You can see Wojciech Polesny climbing out of his simulator. What a race. And there's Mikael Schmidl and Sebastian Hirsch talking to him there, discussing tactics and everything that went on in that race. Schmidl, of course, has done enough and sealed the championship long before we got to this final race. But even so, I'm sure he would have liked to have taken the. Oh, and there, right in the right-hand side of your picture, is Ciro Zambra, who took the championship in the Challenger League yesterday. And there, I suspect, somewhat disappointed Roger Marte, who of course started in pole position, and it all went south for Roger Marte, which is a great shame. He's a super young man and very, very talented. But there is race control. You can see there with the driver race director is Carl Wendlinger in the middle there of the pit wall, and Polesny walking away with a tad of a look of disappointment, I would suggest, on his face, as the rest of the drivers get out of their simulators, and Michael Schmidl puts on a sprint, as you can see. Maybe call of nature, you know. And Fabian Vettel gives us a wave. How very nice of him and generous. So that's it. The race is done and dusted. And it was a great drive from Enrique Maranon. I'm really impressed with that young man. His driving today has been simply superb. Of course, in my opinion, he did most of the hard work in knockout qualifying. And so he was giving us a very nice and polite wave just a moment ago, and now he's with us in person. Fabian Vettel, I was just extolling the virtues of Enrique Maranon, who looked absolutely blistering quick in knockout qualifying, and he converted that into a stunning race performance. I know you were watching all of it. It was a great drive from him.
Yeah, it was really impressive to watch, especially P1 and P2. They were like just hitting those fastest laps. Yeah, it was really intense. I was watching different drivers all the time, and it was really interesting to see different tactics or different, let's say, procedures during the race. Some of them, like Vonneberg, I was watching a lot of laps behind him. And it was interesting because he had a really good start in the beginning. He was instantly catching P1 right after the start, and then he was, let's say, managing his own race. And he didn't fight it for his position at all. So he was just like focusing on his laps and his lap times. And other drivers were driving really aggressive, but overall really interesting and great to watch.
It was great to watch. It was absolutely compelling from the very start to the finish. And I think in terms of P1, 2 and 3, I'm not convinced that we're going to see anything that would upset that. Of course, we take a look at some of the replays now. And this was watching Enrique Maranon then, who made his intentions known right at the start of the race. He was just really on it and knew that he needed to make up positions in the early stages of this race. In fairness, it was such good avoidance from Enrique Maranon at that point. He was able to avoid all this that was going on, and he just threaded himself through those gaps. And of course, just being aware of everything that's going on around you as well, and sometimes being able to take decisive but avoiding action just means that you can take advantage of all others perhaps losing their heads around you, Fabian.
Yeah, there's so much stuff going on in that first corner, in that first chicane. You need to try to get a good position in the entry of that first chicane. But yeah, like you can see, sometimes there's just not enough space for all those cars.
No, and I likened it to being something of a funnel going into that Variante Tamburello, and I think that is playing out. And Dominic Dedic in all sorts of strife there, and a number of drivers were in strife. And Christoph Holstein, I think there, and we saw that live. I mean, there was nothing he could do about that. Now, from a racecraft point of view, Fabian, again, Alejandro Sanchez, where it would be so easy to lose the car, he kind of kept his cool even when he was tagged like that, and was able to keep it pointing in the right direction. That's critical, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It really is, because there's so much going on, and when you are touching with another car, there's so much movement in the car, in the steering wheel, and it's really tough. I can say it. It's really tough to stay on track if you are in fights like this. Yeah.
How must this man be feeling? Roger Marte, of course, started on pole position, then got involved in so much, and then it just went south for him, didn't it? It went from bad to worse for Roger Marte, and
yeah, of course.
That's a real, dare I say, it's a real bummer when you start pole position. You expect a decent result, don't you?
Yeah, of course. Before the race, after the knockout, he said, "I want to win this race." Of course, it's not easy to overcome situations like this, but yeah, you need to look heads up and fight for of course, let's say the next year, and focus on training and maybe be a bit more clever in those fights.
Yeah, and that is something that only comes with experience. But this man has been a standout star for me today, and you can see the emotions, the raw emotions, as he crosses the line and he takes the win. I mean, he's absolutely thrilled, isn't he? And I have to say that emotion and that delight is a joy to see.
Yeah, it was great to watch because he all the time just answered the fastest laps of Smeedel.
Yes,
and then I think Smeedel just recognized after a couple of laps that this guy is tough to beat and even quicker than himself.
This then is our provisional podium with Enrique Maranon P1, Michael Smeedel P2, Alejandro Sanchez P3. I urge you that it is provisional podium. Race controller taking a look at everything that went on during the course of that race, and there were one or two incidents, but at the moment that is our provisional podium. I certainly didn't see anything in there where I felt Enrique Maranon was perhaps going to get the headmaster's ruler. I thought he did okay. Hey, I like talking about races. I don't like enforcing the rules, Fabian. And we leave that, of course, to our race control panel.
Exactly.
And the thing is, and this is something that's perhaps not appreciated by us race fans, and I term myself that, and that is when it comes to race control, they have the access to so much data, even more camera angles they do. Generally speaking, Fabian, and I know you've not agreed with every decision they've made in your racing career, but generally speaking, 9.999 recurring times out of 10, they get it right, don't they?
Yeah, of course. They have way more perspectives and information as the driver by itself, because, of course, especially the perspective and also the movement of your car and also the other cars around you are really important to see like the whole thing that's going on in the whole situation. So one driver by itself, it's really tough to make any decisions for yourself, but I would say as a racing driver, your perspectives are always right, but of course the race control has way more information about the whole race, and
I love your honesty, Fabian. I love your honesty. But you're right. You know, they can look at it in the round, can't they? You know, we see it perhaps from one place, but race control can take a look and see it from the whole perspective, as Fabian has said. There we can see Alejandro Sanchez in the lounge in Madrid. There he is, and he's looking pretty composed, and in the meantime there is Enrique Maranon, who just that show of emotion as he crossed the line, it was a delight for me to see, really it was. And Enrique Maranon then is quite clearly a absolute star, and went into this race P6 in the Drivers' Championship. Going into this race P1 in the Drivers' Championship was this man, Michael Smeedel. Of course, he's sealed the deal. He's already won the championship and won it with some rounds still to go. But it was a joy to watch those drivers. And do you know what? That's even more impressive from Michael, in my opinion, Fabian, in that he recognised that Enrique had got the pace, and he just wasn't going to go and bin the car just in his quest to get on terms with Enrique. You know, to recognise sometimes very early on, do you know what? I'm never going to catch this guy.
Yeah, of course, but in the end I think he tried his best, because today he had nothing to lose and nothing to win, because he already won the championship. So I think Smeedel was really fighting for that P1, but Maranon was in the end quicker, and of course he earned that win and deserved in the end the win.
No, I completely agree with you. It was absolutely stunning driving. I can see in the lounge there, and the same as the lounge here in Kemptal, there's a lot of drivers from the Challenger League that were racing yesterday that have come along to support their buddies in the Racer League as well. And what we should mention is, of course, that we will probably see next year, Fabian, a number of those drivers from the Challenger League elevate into the Racer League, and that is part of the whole kind of step progress ladder, if you will, from Racing Unleashed, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's the plan, and I would say for the most of the Challenger racers, that's the next step, of course. For those who are driving in the front in the Challenger League, that should be the goal for next year.
This is a confirmed podium, Fabian. I can tell you that Enrique Maranon is P1, Mikel Smeedel is P2, Alejandro Sanchez is P3. That is a confirmed podium. So top 3 places are not contested at all. They remain as they cross the line, with Enrique Maranon then taking the win from Mikel Smeedel P2 and Alejandro Sanchez P3. Well done to our race control for being so very quick and giving us that confirmed podium. And we'll be checking in, of course, with our drivers that took that P1, P2 and P3 in due course. And as we speak, we can see on our screens then Alejandro Sanchez then, who really drove so well. And what really impressed me about Alejandro Sanchez earlier on in the race was the fact that, you know, getting involved in incidents and then still being able to keep the car pointing in the right direction. It was great racecraft. And then to come back, and Alejandro Sanchez is with us now. I hope you can hear me, Alejandro. Talk us through the race from your perspective.
First lap was a bit chaotic, but after that it was just a matter of being patient and overtaking safely, because I didn't want any more penalties. So yeah, that's what we did. And then when we got to P3, we were like 10 seconds off the leader, so there was no chance of catching up in like 10 laps. So I just tried to do my best pace and try to keep the gap under 10 seconds just in case there were any penalties. But yeah, it was fun for the first couple of laps, and then just a matter of having a good pace.
I have to say, testament to your skill and your talent, Alejandro. You are the outgoing champion, if you will. You missed a couple of rounds this year. Still to be able to take that P2 place in the Drivers' Championship, which I'm sure you will, having missed 2 events, that just reinforces how good a racing driver you are.
Yeah, we'll be back stronger next year. You can count on that.
Okay, well, we look forward to that. As always, Alejandro, thank you for talking to us. We really appreciate that, and well done for your driving today. Alejandro Sanchez then in our lounge in Madrid, and well done to Alejandro Sanchez. It was good to talk to him, and as he says, you know, just managed it. He realized where he was at and decided, you know, a 10-second gap is going to be too much for me to ever get the better of, so I'm just going to bank the position that I have got. And very sensible driving with his head, of course. So there we can see discussions going on. And now I really hope that I didn't offend Michael Smeedel earlier on in our program when I felt...
I have an interview, mate.
Hang on, Sebastian.
I have a fucking interview now.
Well, forgive any colourful language that you may have heard from Mikel Smeedel then, who's... Angelo Mikel gets his thumbs up as well. Once again, apologies for any colourful language from Mr. Smeedel. Michael, you said, and I hope I didn't offend you, during knockout, or just after knockout qualifying, I thought, I expected to see more from you. And then the bit more that I expected to see, you certainly gave it to us in the race. Talk us through your race, Michael, because P2.
Well, at the start it was kind of hectic, and I went through the collision quite nicely, but still I touched some yellow car. I don't know who that was, to be honest, but we were like side by side and there was like not enough space, so apologies to that. I don't know if it's my fault or not, but you know, I'm not really a dirty driver, so if that's my mistake, I'm gonna apologize and go on with it. Yeah, but in the end, I'm kind of okay with P2. I mean, the top 3 guys had like equally pace, I would say, in the end. So it was more down to like track limits, like infringements or like warnings, whatever, or mistakes even. So yeah, I just basically set up for P2, but I was still like pushing because I enjoyed those like quick laps during the race pace, so that was really good.
At one point during the race, I mean, you and Enrique were swapping fastest laps every single lap. You know, it was like watching a brilliant qualifying session. You know, you were really, really quick.
Yeah, it felt sometimes like a time trial, so that was lovely to be on the edge. I did like one mistake coming to that downhill section. I went by, lost like half a second, but it wouldn't change the outcome. I mean, Enrique definitely deserved that win, and he was rapid today.
Do you know what? And that's the measure of you as a gentleman, as well as being a top racing driver, for you to afford your congratulations to Enrique, because he was on fire today, wasn't he?
Yeah, 100%. And once again, sorry for the violent words at the beginning. I didn't even realize, so sorry for that.
No worries. I'm sure we're going to check in with you again a little bit later in the program. Mikael Smeedel, many congratulations on your P2, and nonetheless. So lovely to talk to Mikael Smeedel then, and as he was preparing for the interview, that was great fun. That was television gold. So we've spoken to our P3 and our P2 driver, and of course we will be checking in with Enrique Maranon in due course as well. And one should bear in mind, of course, that Mikael Smeedel has already won the championship, which is why I think that we'll be speaking to him again a little bit later on. But it's really, really nice when you hear the driver that finished P2 say just how good the driver that finished P1 was. Enrique Maranon in Madrid. I have to say, the look across your face as you crossed the timing line was a joy for us to behold. It was television gold. Race winner, talk us through your race, because you were on fire, friend.
Yeah, well, I mean, I trained a lot for this track, and when I was P1 on lap 4, I was thinking that I can put the pace, but I was controlling also the pace of Smeedel because I didn't want to force a lot, and that's all the race.
Well, I don't know whether you heard, and I'm sure you didn't hear, but I was just speaking to Mikael Smeedel, and he paid testament to just how quick you were today. And he said, you know what, because at one point in the race, you and he were swapping fastest laps, lap after lap after lap after lap, but you maintained that gap. And he said, Dave, do you know what, I couldn't have caught Enrique today. He was driving brilliantly. So that's testament.
Yeah, I mean, thank you very much, because it's really nice to hear that. And I mean, Smeedel was really, really fast today also, because I saw that he did in the training like 19.9, and he was doing it all the laps. So yeah.
Now, we saw just as you had finished the race that there was lots of support for you around you. Have you got family with you there today to enjoy your success as well, Enrique?
Yeah, it was my father with me, and the father of Marcos also. So I mean, it's amazing to be here, because they are always supporting, and finally I've got the win. So
I'm really thrilled for you, Enrique Maranon. Many, many congratulations to you. You drove a brilliant race today. You are our race winner. Well done.
Thank you very much.
So in our studio and, of course, in our simulator in Madrid, the Racing Lounge in Madrid, Enrique Maranon then the race winner, and we've spoken to the P1, the P2 and the P3. Of course, the deliberations are continuing on race control, as you can see, because there are lots of other positions to be looked at, but we can confirm that the P1, 2, 3 is as we were and as they cross the line, which is really, really good to see. So there we have it. You can see Devon Iskro is down there. Roger Marte is down there as well, I believe, as the race direction are deliberating, as I say, about overall the decisions that need to be made and whether any penalties will be awarded or not. There was in the opening lap, or opening laps, certainly there were quite some incidents, as it were. And, of course, that is the job of race control, to police that and to look at that and decide whether anyone deserves to potentially pick up a penalty. They work very, very studiously and very hard in deciding that. So, our final race of our championship season is done and dusted. Don't forget, though, we will still be racing in our Battle for Glory as well, though. You can see the podiums are being prepared, and as I understand it, we will have two podiums. One podium, of course, for the race, and then another podium for the championship as well. So they are being prepared as we speak. Lots and lots of extraneous noise in my headphones, I can tell you, as everyone is getting together. And Alejandro Sanchez receives his trophy for P3. Well done, Alejandro. So Alejandro Sanchez then in Madrid with a lot of support. He takes P3. And well done to him. And up next it will be our P2 podium for Michael Smeedel. There he is, on to step number 2. And he receives his podium award and his P2 trophy. Well done, Michael. Well done. And of course, from there we will be heading back to Madrid, because on the top step of the podium, and to be awarded with the P1 Winners Trophy, Enrique Maranon. And the place erupts with delight for Enrique Maranon then. Brilliant job done. Well done, young man. A super talent and a super quick drive today, both in knockout qualifying and in the race as well. Absolutely awesome stuff. Many, many congratulations. So there, our race podium done and dusted. Of course, as I said, I'm pretty sure that we will have a championship podium as well, because the championship has been sealed and done today. And there you can see Yannick Vonenberg and Michael Smeedel in conversation there. And there also from our Challenger League as well. And I have to say, this is what I love about this. The fact that whether you're a Challenger League driver or a Racer League driver, you know, you're there supporting each other, and the camaraderie and friendship, as you can see there, Angelo Mikel and Wojciech Polesny having a conversation as well. Wojciech Polesny is to the left-hand side of the screen. He's 8 foot tall, and Angelo Mikel is not so tall. So the man to the very right-hand side of your picture is Michael Smeedel. He is the champion. Let's recall his year. What a year.
Michael Smeedel here. He's going to win at Spa, and he's going to win the Racer League Championship here at Racing Unleashed.
Well, obviously, it has been a brilliant season from my side in terms of performance, and I think the main thing for me this year was to show up with a better racecraft. That was a little bit missing last year. So obviously it feels great.
Smeedel, though, does try, and this time he's got alongside him. And Smeedel has to lock up under braking, and Smeedel has done it. Or has he? Because Dedic is coming back here. Dedic is going to have the inside for the next. There's a little touch between the two of them. Well, an absolutely clinical drive from this man.
I think he's mentally very strong, especially as we have this reverse grid for the knockout. So he was the championship leader quite from the beginning of the season. Had to start always from the back of the grid in the knockout. Made his way through.
Here comes Smeedel having another look, and I tell you what, Sanchez, he is a brave man at the moment, and he is a fighter, a warrior in this championship battle with this man behind him. Up El Rouge come. Look at the launch Smeedel got. Will he do what David C does yesterday? He tucks underneath now, and you feel that this run is going to be all important. Vonenberg could be an absolute blinder, and look at this, side by side they split Vonenberg into Lecombs, and Sanchez somehow keeps hold of it. Smeedel tries round the outside, now on the inside, can't get it done, and has to tuck back in behind. Schumacher, Hakkinen-esque there from these two, and what scenes we have here at Spa.
Smeedel tries to put it through the middle of these two. Oh, and absolutely awesome stuff from Michael Smeedel, threading like a knitting needle through the middle.
Like Michael Schumacher said, you know, once in a time, if there is even like the slightest chance, just go for it.
My last question to you, Michael, are they your race boots to the right-hand side of your simulator there? Have you got your stinky feet, bare feet in the simulator?
Yeah, I'm just trying, man. that is actually a good question, but I'm old school sim racer, so I'm just using my socks, mate.
This is Racing Unleashed Beyond the Pinnacle.
We have had a lot of fun, and there you can see the championship award then, P1. Going to Michael Smeedel. Wow, what a man, what a driver, and he has been so good this season. 43,500 Swiss francs. My goodness me. That's a big lump of money in the bin. Well done, Michael Schmiedl, then champion in Racing Unleashed in the Racer League, and an all-time good guy as well. A brilliant racing driver, as he said. You know, he learned last year he needed to improve his racing craft. He did that, and he came and he dealt the severest of blows to every other contender by taking the championship. And he did it, as we saw in that wonderful film. He did it with several rounds still to go. So brilliant stuff for Michael Schmiedl. I'm thrilled for him. Richly deserved a P1 in the Racing Unleashed Drivers' Championship for 2022. Of course, he will come and race in the Battle for Glory. I don't doubt that. And that will be brilliant to see. So we've seen the champion crowned. Up next, it will be P2 in the championship, and that will be Alejandro Sanchez. We just await him. As if by magic, there is Alejandro Sanchez. He was champion last year. He becomes P2 in the championship this year. 22,500 Swiss francs, Alejandro Sanchez banks. Well done, Alejandro. Brilliant job for P3 in the Drivers' Championship for Racing Unleashed for 2022. Alejandro Sanchez then. And of course, P3 still to be crowned in the Drivers' Championship for Racing Unleashed for 2022. We've seen the championship winner. We've seen the P2 in the Drivers' Championship for 2022. We await the P3 driver in our Drivers' Championship. So there he is, Michael Schmiedl, of course, has got his medal, which he wears around his neck with some pride, and of course he should. Done a brilliant job indeed. So we await Angelo Michel then. Now, I haven't done the calculations, and of course, race control are still looking at incidents during the course of that race. And I think Angelo Michel has just heard the news that he's taken P3 in the Drivers' Championship. Literally live as we were talking to you. That's it. Get the hoodie off. You might want to comb the hair as well, Angelo, just saying, because the focus of the media attention is going to be on Angelo Michel as he heads towards the podium, and I think he's taking P3. Still some discussions going on, and of course this is all happening as we speak, and here he comes then onto the third step of the podium. This is for the championship in 2022. Angelo Michel takes the P3 championship award. Well done, and he's congratulated by our champion as well, Michael Schmiedl, making the loud noise there with the applause. And Angelo Michel, well done. He does seal an excellent P3 in the Drivers' Championship. So all smiles. He went into this P3, and the person that could unseat him, well, it was Javier Loro, potentially. But he has done it. So there we have it then, the championship podium done and dusted as well. So both the podiums, and of course we remind you that we're not done with racing yet, because there is still the Battle for Glory to come in December from Racing Unleashed. And there you can see once again.
Muy fuerte. Muy fuerte, muy fuerte.
Well, we are being told, and this is breaking news, that actually Angelo Michel does not take P3 in the championship, but Enrique Maranon does. So this is as race control are absolutely making their decisions. Enrique Maranon takes P3 in the Drivers' Championship, not Angelo Michel. So double bubble for Enrique Maranon today then. He takes the race win, and by taking the race win, that gives him enough points to take P3 in the Drivers' Championship. Absolutely brilliant stuff. What a weekend Enrique Maranon has had here in Madrid then. the race win and P3 in the Drivers' Championship, and then the disappointment for Angelo Michel then. Sorry, Angelo, nothing to do with me. It's race control that, of course, making decisions just as quickly as they can with regards to penalties that are being awarded, and quite clearly they have decided that Enrique Maranon takes P3 in the Drivers' Championship. So the championship podium done and dusted and awarded, and, well, Angelo still all smiles, and it is what it is. It is what it is. So he, of course, will be back and will battle hard as he always does. So there we have it then, as we speak, and as we were speaking then, decisions being made and changed. What we do know for sure, though, is Michael Smeedel is the 2022 champion. And all of our lounges together then for this Racing Unleashed 2022 season. Our lounges being in Kemptal and Zurich and Madrid and Munich and Calm as well. And decisions going all the way and right the way to the wire. So still plenty of discussions that will go on, and will go on late into the afternoon, I assume, as well. And it was nice to see Sebastian Hirsch back in the lounge. Recovering from injuries, not brought about at all by racing, but we have missed him competing, and there you can see the race control panel still deliberating over various decisions, and that will continue for a while yet, I am sure, and they have access to so much, and they can look at so much, all the different data and different camera angles as well, and that's exactly what they are doing right now with Carl Wendlinger, who is the driving ambassador, if you will, sat right in the middle of the race control panel there as well. So there we have it, and there you can see Angelo Michel still having some fun with Michael Smeedel, and walking away now. Well, this is it for the season then, as Michael Smeedel takes P1, of course, in the Drivers' Championship, P2 for Alejandro Sanchez, and P3 for Enrique Maranon. That's it for the Racing Unleashed Championship for 2022, but it's not the end. We will be racing at the Battle for Glory. Make sure you join us for that in December, but for now, thank you so much for watching. Thanks to all the drivers, and thanks to all the team that support me as well, and we'll see you in the Battle for Glory. Bye-bye for now.
This is Racing Unleashed Beyond the Pinnacle.
Hold on to your hats. We are on the grid. Who is going to be king of the late breakers? Excellent on-board shot. Michael Smeedel is throwing absolutely everything at this, including the kitchen sink.
And he is a fighter, a warrior. And look at this! Look at this!
Unglaublich!
Wow, qué pelea!
I'm loving this.
Take your hat off and give him a bow. He's already in the lead, and now he can sail off into the sunset.
This is Racing Unleashed.